your day. Oink, oink. Smart little bites that brighten your way. You're listening to Food for Thought Radio. Here at FFCRadio.com. Clap, moo, oink. Food for Thought Radio. Here at FF.
Oh, it's gone on.
No, order, sit and leave.
This is the best political satire broadcast in the universe.
Order! I say to the honourable gentleman, give me this.
You are listening to Fockham Hall with Eric von Essex.
Good evening and welcome to another exciting show. And tonight our guest is Donald Jeffries from America. And also we have, as part of the team, his Royal Hanorach. So first of all, good evening, Donald. I believe it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon where you are. It's 8 o'clock in the evening here.
Right. Would that be, is that tea time over there? I wouldn't have tea time. It's almost tea time here, I guess.
Yes, it's sort of, it's still light here, but it's 8 o'clock in the evening, and I think it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon because I think you're in.
It's 3 o'clock here. 3 o'clock here, yeah.
Washington, and of course, we got his Royal Hanorach, as we call him.
Good evening to you both.
Got Paul in this. We call him Paul. When Paul, the other Paul English comes on, we call him Hanorach. So you know, but as I say, Paul. As Don as Paul. So there we go.
Nice to meet you, Don.
And we should be
Nice to meet
joined
you.
by Patrick soon. And now I think everything is going fine. Yes, we are. We had a bit of trouble linking up with Rumble earlier, but we're linked up okay. And we're live on Food for Thought Radio. Also, no, we're not on Facebook, Rumble, and Holy Land Radio FM as well. So and a few more that I can't remember. Now, Don, excuse me, don't let me call you Don. You're an author. Can you sort of give us some background into how you became an author? When did you sort of first wake up to something that's not quite right going on? You know, what is something wrong with the world? So can you sort of fill us in on that one?
Well, I didn't have any. I've pretty much been awake my entire life. I mean, I was questioning things as a little kid. By the time I was a teenager, Watergate was happening, and I started paying attention to politics. The JFK assassination, started reading up about it later, and then that was my first issue. I went down the rabbit holes. I joined Mark Lane's, was the most famous critic of the Warren Report over here. Joined his group as a volunteer in the mid to late 70s. And from then, I never looked back. I was very politically right. And once I discovered the truth about the JFK assassination, it led to other things. And I started, realizing they never tell the truth about anything. Or, geez, they've lied to us about everything. So that's has led me to write about so many different things. I've had 10 books published in different subjects, but a lot. Three of them are about history, hidden history. And I go back to the founding of the Republic, and I think we've been lied to about everything. So when anybody says anything, yes, you a little choppy to me, and somebody in the chat says I sound choppy. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, you sound a little choppy. I don't know quite what
hopefully the audience can.
Problem is. I'll just go into let's have a look, see if I can adjust your sound.
Yeah, because you sound that way to me, and also the commercials did as well.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that was better for a second.
Is that better? Is that improved?
Can you hear me? Okay.
No, I still hear the thing. My microphone is.
It could be your microphone.
Yeah, no, I'm hearing like choppiness and static from all you guys.
So
I guess you're hearing it from me.
hang on a moment. Hang on one moment. I think I have the root of the problem.
Okay.
Guess who forgot to put his
Okay.
headphones on? Hang on a moment. Now I've got to alter something here. I've been sitting here. That's the reason why it's choppy. Just please excuse me. It's not very professional, is it? I mean, come on.
Didn't even notice, to be honest with you, Chris.
Now the reason it's choppy. Now this should be okay. Now is that better now?
I'm still here.
better?
You guys don't sound choppy to each other, and I sound choppy. I don't know because
Yeah, you
you
still
guys
sound a
choppy to
bit
me. I
choppy
don't
at the
know.
moment.
Yeah.
Let's
There's
see if I
like
can
some
try,
interference with the mic or something like that.
selecting another.
Let's see if I'm trying to do something with the microphone in this side. Let's have a look here.
That sounds.
Alice Gould has said choppy and sped up. Yeah, but there are notices it in chat.
Sounding better.
Thanks, Mark. That's sounding a little bit better. What do you think, Paul? Do you reckon that's a bit better?
Yeah, that's
Better now.
see how it goes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We got it. Chat, is everything all right in chat,
You
mate?
sound better now, though.
Yeah.
I don't know. They give me 4 choices and they're all the same, so I don't know. Okay, that should be
We're
better
okay
now.
now. Well,
Good.
well, trouble is, it was my other mate Don, Trump, because
Yeah.
he was on the phone earlier and he said, and
The other Donald.
if
Yeah,
you
the other
believe that,
American
believe
Donald.
anything. Yes. I mean, now the thing is, your books, The Hidden History. Now, my ears pricked up when you said that because my particular forte is the hidden history of World War II, because my father was in the full 6 years of World War II.
Yep.
Because we were in 2 years earlier than in America.
Right. Yeah.
And he was drafted. So and he was a reluctant draft. He could see what was wrong, and he realised that the war was really totally unnecessary in many ways. Well, he was in all ways, really. But can you give us a few titles of your books? And I believe that I've got your email here. I can actually put underneath what people, if you want.
Sure. You
would
can
like me
see
to put
some of
your
them
email up?
conveniently, strategically placed over my shoulder. You can see some of the titles, and if I go that way, you can see more. My hidden history
Wow.
books. The first one is Hidden History, an expose of crimes, cover-ups in American politics. In American politics. That one is still my bestseller. Covers everything from the JFK assassination up through the Obama years. Then the prequel to that is Crimes and Cover-Ups in American Politics, 1776 to 1963. That covers the founding of the Republic. That has a lot of World War II stuff in it.
Wow.
It covers Allied atrocities. And then my latest book is called American Memory Hole, How the Court Historians Promote Disinformation. That's basically Hidden History 3, where it kind of combines both books. And we look at lots of myths about our Civil War, the completely ridiculous and unnecessary World War I, all the lies about the good war of World War II, and just the more modern wars. I mean, not including the Iran war, which we're engaged in now, but just kind of dissects all the wars and how America, at least, has always neglected its own house. There's so many problems here in America. We're literally falling apart. And the last thing we should do is, consorting about the neighborhood, working on other houses when ours is the roof is caving in. But I think we've been lied to about everything. That's why anybody that makes any claim at all about history, I'm skeptical about whatever it is, because I like about everything.
Yeah, well, that's right, Paul. But people say, "Oh, I woke up with 9/11." No, I was awake long before then, because my dad was very much awake. I don't like using that word, awake. I don't know what the word would be, but I was, I realised there was something not quite right from the early years, because
knowledge, I guess, is perhaps the better description, because we've all learned. We've had to unlearn what we were taught at school and all that crap. And we're now learning what's really going on and what the world really is all about. And every word that comes out of
when history's
mouth is a lie, every bit of it.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I call the people, we know obviously whether you want to call it fake news, whatever, we know we're being lied to by the so-called journalists. There are no journalists, no investigative journalists. They're all mouthpieces for the state, or state control.
Prostitutes.
Prostitutes, as Gerald Celente term, but The past, I call them court historians, and they're the gatekeepers of the past. And these are the people that make sure, like for instance, last year we had a from one of your favorites over there, Winston Churchill. There was a guest on Tucker Carlson last year who just was critical of Winston Churchill and kind of implied maybe he wasn't a good guy. And Tucker let him have his say, and everything came crashing. How dare you have somebody on that would say something like that? I mean, that's where we are. The parameters of discussion are so narrow, so that we can't even say something like that. There's obviously room for debate about Churchill, but certainly he was right in the middle of World War II, pushing it, and
well, he was paid for, wasn't he, by the City of London?
Sure. And this is a guy who, was a notorious drunk, a warmonger, and so I don't.
I agree with you.
But he's considered like our FDR. FDR was horrible too. I mean, FDR was just a huge warmonger, and yeah, I mean,
and a thief as well. Because look what happened with the gold.
Yeah,
wasn't Churchill linked to the indirectly to the sinking of the Lusitania? Because that's how America got dragged into it, wasn't it? Because he basically been told what was going to happen, and he knew what was going to happen, and that ship was going to be sank, and he was behind it all.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's what we have in terms of America. We go back to 1898 when we had the sinking of the Maine that got us in the Spanish-American War, where we first went outside the United States and really committed troops to something that was against, as John Quincy Adams said, America does not go abroad in search of foreign monsters to destroy. Well, that's all we've done since then. And then you had the Lusitania, as you mentioned, was a false flag, got us into the senseless World War I. And then you had Pearl Harbor, which is another false flag that Roosevelt might as well have been flying one of the planes himself. That got us into World War II. And ever since then, we have the Gulf of Tonkin, the weapons of mass destruction. Right. It's nothing but false flags in our history.
You're right. And I mean, what gets me is we've got the English Channel between us and the continent. And people have often said, I don't want to sound elitist or anything like that, but Britain is very different to the rest of continental Europe because we're an island. And Ireland, the country of Ireland, is very different to the rest of continental Europe because they're an island. And most island people are different. West Indian people are very different because they're island race. And that's why they tend to sort of go on with us because we're an island race. And we've got 25 to 30 miles width of channel between us. And that has been a natural fortress for years. And in World War I, which we needn't have got involved with, we had a navy that could have blown anything out of the water. It dwarfed the American Navy in World War I. In World War II, it was exactly the same. We didn't dwarf the American Navy in World War II, but the First World War was really about a railway that was going into Germany, supplying it with oil. And that's what they wanted to destroy. The British wanted to destroy that rail link from the oil fields in the Middle East. That was really what the World War I was about. But we're told it's because Prince van Ferdinand got shot in Sarajevo. So, that type of thing. And in World War II, we declared war the first time in history on an enemy that's gone away from us. Advancing away from us, nothing to do with us. What was it to do with us? It was nothing to do with us.
Well, I mean, how many people in the two world wars? Now, of course, in World War II, you threw Japanese, especially, which were not white. But World War I, World War II, I don't know how many, 50 million, maybe. How many young white men lost their lives? It was really a genocide, or however you want to define it. But it was a mass casualty event like nothing we've ever seen before, and it made no sense. In both cases, nothing. As for us, certainly Britain lost their empire, so you guys didn't come out of it. I think Tucker Carlson talked recently to Piers Morgan over there, and he said, "What did you win? What did you win out of World War II? What did we win? What happened is we got stuck with Israel, and Israel is now the center of the world's problems. That's what came out of World War II for us."
Well, Netanyahu is the president of the United States, isn't he? Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
I mean, Donald Trump. I think Netanyahu just pulls the strings, and Donald Trump just sort of, all right, yeah. I mean,
the goal of World War II was to get the people we're not allowed to mention. It was basically to force them across over to Israel and Gaza,
Right.
get. And I still question the place beginning with A as well. I've said this to you before, Chris. About I think all that's a lie as well. And I've said
Yeah.
before about that the transport. Nobody used trains to get people to that place beginning with A,
Mm.
but trains would have been the biggest target for enemy
And for
bombings.
troop transport. I mean, something happened in this country that I don't know whether you're aware of this, Don, but I think we're the only country that evacuated children from the cities. Did you know about that one?
No.
And it's a big mystery. It's in 1940. They decided it was voluntary, it wasn't compulsory, to evacuate the children from the cities and industrial areas. And they sent these poor little souls with tickets, luggage tickets around their necks, and they'd send them to villages in the countryside, and they'd herd them into a hall, put them into a hall, and they would people would come in and say, "Well, we can take these two, and we can take these, and we can take these, and we can take that," and they relied on the kindness of local people to house these children. I don't know if they got compensation from the government or anything like that, but these children at a very young age were taken. Well, they left their parents, and what is a big mystery is that many went missing and they didn't know what happened to them.
Yeah.
Some of them were treated like slaves, and admittedly, some of them were treated very, very well. I worked with a chap who was evacuee, and he thought he'd died and gone to heaven because he went up to East Anglia, and his house where he was at the end of an American Air Force base, and every night he looked out of his window and saw flying fortresses flying over, and he loved aeroplanes, and he learnt to drive on the American Air Force base, and the Americans made his life when he was a child because he was an underprivileged child, and he said he'd never had a childhood like it. And he said it was thanks to the Americans that he used to go up to the Air Force base because children couldn't get toys in this country during World War II.
Right.
And Americans donated toys to send to the children in this country, and the American Air Force took them over.
Certainly, you guys had a much different experience where you had the Blitz, and you said your children were. Although Alice Gorgeous in the chat makes maybe not a humorous comment about trafficking. That's what my first thought was when many children went missing. I'm assuming they go where too many children go, and they're being trafficked for some reason. But I don't know that
Doesn't
happened
make you
there.
think.
Yeah. But in the United States, we had a completely different experience. Again, I wasn't around, but here we didn't suffer. We had rationing, but we had victory gardens and this super patriotic fervor that unfortunately has never totally left us since then. And we just started trusting in government like it had never been done before. And then we did after the war. I don't know how you guys did or not, but in America, we had the greatest economy the world has ever seen. The post-war boom created the suburbs over here, created a standard of living that never been seen before. Every job paid a living wage. And, eventually I came along, and people like us, we grew up in the tail end of that. And
That's
so
right.
we were spoiled. We were spoiled in that because
that's our age, I think. So we're brought up, we're baby boomers, basically.
Yeah, baby boomer. Yeah, and so we still, I thought that was normal. I didn't realize, well, it wasn't like that before, and now it's gone back to obviously not being that way. But at least in America, we did experience a boom for a while. But that's part of our problem.
We, even though we were heavily in debt, we did experience of doing, and look at the sort of explosion in talent we had in the 1960s. But Alice Gorgeous has said, how many, children, how many children went missing? I don't know the answer to that. I really don't know the answer. And I don't think many people do know the answer.
Well, I do wonder whether when they rounded up all the children and sent them in different places, whether that was the plan to repopulate cities that were completely vacant of anybody. Because we've been told many times that they had the great resets where you've got cities and nobody living in them. It'd be a perfect way to restart and say, well, your mom and dad were both killed, so we'll put you in Moscow, for example. There you go. That's your new home.
Well, the thing is that what I can't understand is trains were the way you transported troops very efficiently in World War II and in World War I as well. And during that period of 1940, they needed troops transported to all areas of the country. Why tie up trains for civilian children? Didn't make sense. The second thing is, again, it was voluntary. My mother her parents didn't send her. Their parents said, if we're going to die, we all die together. That sort of thing. That was it. And they were in an industrial area. And my mother said they used to sit in the air raid shelters, and the bombers would come over and they'd drop bombs of sticks of six. And they used to count as the bombs came closer to them. 1, 2, 3, and they go, and then it'd drop to the side. Because if you got one that went straight overhead, that was it. But what happened is they advised people to leave during the Blitz, to leave their doors and windows open so the blast went straight through. And what happened? Some ARP wardens went in and stole stuff. But the thing is, these air raid shelters were often damp. They're very unhealthy. And of course, they had to do a full day's work the next day. And another thing I don't know if you was aware of this, Don, we was one of very few countries that conscripted women as well. They didn't go and fight in the front line, but we conscripted women into the forces.
Wow. Well, it's I know certainly in America, that was the beginning, kind of the beginning of feminism in a way, where we had Rosie the Riveter and the women went into the workforce, and they relished, I guess, being outside the home. And lots of bad stuff came. We had a post-war economy that was great, but obviously lots of bad things came as a result of that. Toxic feminism and increased divorce rates and things like that we had. So the breakup of the family that would eventually, we see now the madness that we see here with transgenderism and all this stuff now.
Well, I think we could say that there's something to do with the unmentionables, because we've got to be very careful.
I have a code word for them. I have a code word for them, and lots of people are saying, I call them the non-Irish. So we're talking about the non-Irish. So you're talking about the impact of the non-Irish.
The non-Irish, yes. That's the thing. But see, the thing is, not all, because what they do is the ones that make the money then leave the rest of their people out and hang them out to dry. So they make their money, leave the country, and leave the rest of them to hang them out to dry. And that's what happens most of the time, I think. But now, by the way, Sue Sparkle says, I'm sorry I'm late. I would say you have to write lines for that, or a note from your parents, definitely. Now, the thing is that with America at the moment, I mean, we've got the impression we don't know what's going on in the Gulf of, in the Hormuz, and we don't know what's going on with Iran. And we really don't know whether Donald Trump is sane or not. I mean, he certainly has got a very high opinion of himself, hasn't he? He really does love himself. But
he's got a cartoonish ego. Yeah, I call it, when he began, I call it the Trumpenstein Project several years ago, and I think he's an actor. I still think this is an act, but
I agree.
It's taken a dark turn, a very dark turn, because in the previous years, he would flip-flop, but he would throw out red meat, and he'd still say some great stuff. He stopped saying great things about a year ago, and all he's doing, he's going one way now, bore down the wrong path, and it's nothing but neocon nonsense, and he's repudiating everybody that ever supported him and remembers the stuff that he did say he would do, promised to do, and didn't do. So right now, he's just a dark figure, and the country is, we're reeling politically, because we have more not apathy, but people are awake. And we mentioned the non-Irish, and they're awake to that especially. And there's a thing over here, #noticing. People are noticing. They're noticing things that were never noticed before. And they understand the power of Zionism. They understand who controls the country. The defeat of Thomas Massey very recently, who was the best member of Congress. The AIPAC spent $32 million to defeat a Kentucky congressman. And, it looked like there was vote fraud, like there usually is. But people understand it, and they see it. And they're especially young people. Recently, they had a great debate on YouTube between millennials and boomers. And of course, I'm always on the side of the millennials. I don't have much in common with my fellow boomers, but most of the argument was about Zionism and about the deadly impact that has had on us, because that is directed resources, much as when we were little, the Cold War was still going on, and so it directed resources away from things that needed to be done here because, well, it's Cold War. We have to do it. Then Vietnam or whatever nonsense we were engaged in, all that ended. The Cold War ended, but there was never a peace dividend. In our country, the Cold War ended, and we went right to we have to stop terrorism. We went to the Gulf War.
That's it.
The endless wars in the Middle East for Zionism. So we just went to Zionism, and now that's all we concentrate on. So nothing gets to our infrastructure hasn't been really touched in over 60 years. It's embarrassing. Our sensors are from China. Our power grids are ancient. It's embarrassing the way we have. You compare us to China or Japan or things like that with the clean, high-speed, transits they have. We have nothing like that here. We have, old, dirty subways and places like New York. You'd risk your life to take them. So it's really inexcusable. And I think the people, especially the young people, are getting fed up because here in America, they don't have the chances my generation had. We still had a lot of, chances to, not even try that hard and get a good enough job to be able to support yourself. They don't have that here now. With AI coming in and immigration, visa workers, they realize they've been sold a Bill of Rights and they're angry about it. So I hope they get angry and do something.
Because is that down to, because I guess Washington, D.C. is deemed as a different country altogether. It's a District of Columbia.
Yeah.
And American tax comes to the crown here in the UK. So is that why America's been left to fall apart? Because it's basically the people who live there are paying taxes that they never see, and you've got a Congress that aren't actually in America technically, because a bit like the City of London here is not.
That's right.
Not England.
No.
It's a separate country.
Well, you guys have basically a socialist system. We have. I call what we have in America socialism without services. We pay for a socialist nanny state and we get nothing in return. I mean, nothing. Nothing. They're cutting back on library hours. The roads are never repaired. The bridges are old and crumbling. The services, the safety net that you have is always being, dwindling. They're talking about getting rid of Social Security. We have a terrible medical system. A healthcare system we have is the worst in the world. Yet I
don't know. Ours is pretty bad.
well, I don't know. But yeah, ours is.
It's not free.
Well, yeah, I understand. Well, ours isn't either. And see, the thing is, as I wrote in, I think it was Hidden History, my first book, when I researched America, we actually pay more in healthcare taxes than countries like yours and Canada and France that have a one-payer system. We get nothing in return for it. We have been sold out. The only thing we get, and we're always told, well, we'd have to raise your property tax because we're still paying property taxes, which is ridiculous.
We do.
But they'll say we have to raise them if we're going to do something good here that might benefit you. But they never have to raise when they're sending Ukraine another $100 billion.
Oh yes,
nothing has to be raised there. And somehow they get the money. Where do they find that money?
Yeah, they can find that perfectly well. Yes.
Oh
yeah,
yes,
we have that issue, don't we, Chris? Where they
and,
they can't sort the bins out, but Ukraine needs another billion. Oh, there you go. It's just falling down the back of the settee. There it is.
That's
Evening,
right.
Patrick.
And evening, Patrick. Hello, mate.
Hey, good evening. How are
Patrick,
you all?
Hey, Patrick. Good to hear you.
Yeah, good to hear you too, Donald. How's it going there?
Fine.
Good day to you.
I'm just trying to rearrange the screen. Hang on, we got words coming in front of you, Donald. We got to work something out here.
That's okay. I don't mind. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, people don't want to see words coming all over it, and you don't want to be at the bottom like that, do you? So
Is it allowed
we got to do something here.
Is it allowed to swap?
I think
Donald for myself, and
I threw a monkey wrench by coming in.
Nah, you didn't. It's okay. But it's all right, until we can sort it out. You can have words in front of you.
That's fine. It's okay. I usually have words coming out of me, so that's fine.
Chris, shall I drop off and come back on and see if that makes a difference? It might put me across there.
No.
That's all right, mate. I'll sort something out. In fact, I'm still a amateur at Restream. You see, I'm used to problems with Rumble Studio, so there's probably a way of doing it. But because let's have a look. Well, I'll sort something out.
Yeah, yeah. I think we're good.
I think we're okay.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, Don, is well, we got great big food for thought at the bottom where we don't need it. I'll have to sort something out. Hang on, we got something there. No, we're still the same, isn't it? What about the other way?
Chris, let me drop off and I'll
There
come
you
back in.
go. There you
Yeah,
go.
that's better. No, that's
we
There
cracked
you go.
it.
cataract. That's better.
That's better. We cracked it. Right. So you don't mind being a small picture. I'm a small picture as well. You're saying, Don, I'm terribly sorry about all that. So you're saying, mate.
Was I saying? I just, again, just from our standpoint, again, things are different in America than they are in Britain. And what I really, I mean, I was glad for you guys, but I know you all have had protests there recently where you've been able to get people out in the streets. We can't do that here in America. France has been able to do it with the Yellow Jackets. Ireland was able to do it. We can't do it. We can, ever since January 6th, our people are terrified to do anything. And we are under the iron boot, and it's embarrassing. And we're all scared because we don't want to be carted off to Siberia.
Or the Gulag. Well, people are scared in this country as well. I think the most fiery were the yellow vests until they got infiltrated by the government.
Well, January 6th, we had, before that, we had the George Floyd riots here near Minneapolis.
Yeah.
And that was something else.
Yeah.
The whole lockdown situation with Trump locking us down was a major deal. So
That's right.
in protests, we've never really been a protest country. Maybe like in Chicago back, during the late 1800s, they had protests and that kind of thing. And maybe during I don't know if World War II they had protests, but
No, they
Vietnam they did.
Oh,
But
yeah,
they-
Vietnam.
They fixed
Within
that
your
with the
con-
drugs.
Yeah.
Within the Constitution, there, do you have a right to protest? Like, I mean, like with us in Britain, we have under human rights, we have a right to protest, and the
Of
police
course. We have a right
effectively
to peaceful
breaking the
assembly.
law by stopping us.
Well, you look at January 6th. You had, these people were assembled at the Capitol, at the Capitol grounds, and then they marched to the Capitol after Trump said he would lead them, and then he abandoned them. He didn't go. One of his first throwing them under the bus. When they went, that's perfectly legal. And even I argued that there was this thing about, and I interviewed many of these J6ers on my show. I interviewed the mother of Ashley Babbitt, who was shot and killed a couple times on my show. But and these people were just they were just protesting. They were political protesters, just like the left was during, Patrick mentioned, the George Floyd and the Antifa riots that people were actually killed and lots more violence, buildings torched. None of that happened on January 6th. But they acted as if it was a crime to go into the Capitol building. And I think I'm the only one arguing. Why would that be trespassing? We pay for that building. It's supposed to be our representatives in there. Why would that be a crime? And you could say, okay, you can't go near where the legislators are made, although you used to be able to. You used to be able to go up and watch the proceedings. You can't do that anymore. But everybody acted as if it was I interviewed a sweet little old lady on my show that was in there for 3 minutes praying. And she was sentenced, I think, to 6 years. Now, she got pardoned by Trump, the only good thing he's done. But ever since then, they were exercising their constitutional rights to assemble. They had a political assembly, and the American Civil Liberties Union, which I used to be a member of way back when they cared about civil liberties, they did nothing. They let those people, some of them were in prison for 4 years, denied all due process. It was like our Civil War. No one did anything. And there's still lots of people who I now agree with about Israel, but I can't discuss the January 6th people. They think it was an insurrection. So we have an impasse there because they hate Trump so much. So it was disgraceful what happened, but I understand maybe why people are reluctant, because after they saw the way that the government reacted to them and the draconian lockdown, I guess I understand why they're reluctant to do it again.
Well, the thing is that, I mean, you've got the right to bear arms. In Britain, England, you see, I say Britain, but I've discovered that there's a big difference between English, Scottish, Welsh, and Northern Irish and British, because British represents the aristocracy. That would be Charles, who's a Norman by descent, who came over and enslaved the English. The English constitution is that we have the right to bear arms. That is, and they've steamrolled over that. They're even thinking of you going to have a license for a crossbow now, an actual a license for that. So what we're going to do? Go out with pea shooters for the dusters? I mean, what we're going to do? I mean, they disarmed us, and
But of course, a population that hasn't got any way of defending themselves is a easy pushover, aren't they? Which is why they keep having these fake mass shootings in America to try and get people to get rid of. Because if you've got some redneck with a shotgun and they go down and say, "Well, we're going to come and give you the jibby jabby," he's going to get his shotgun out and say, "Well, come past this first, and then you can put it on." But if they've got rid of all the arms over there, all of a sudden everyone's an easy target, aren't they? And that's
well, then we'd have protests. Then we'd start having protests. I think they let you have it because you don't have those.
Yeah.
Those
well,
things.
I think a lot of protest marches are data gathering exercises for the secret services most of the time, and they don't really achieve very much. That's the problem. Now, going into chat, Mike Mantis says, "Where are we? I have Docken's first album, Breaking the Change, from 1982. One of the songs is called Paris is Burning, still apt now, 44 years later." Very good point, because apparently Paris is burning. I don't know what's going on there.
There's a possible link there.
It's probably a link. And Blu-ray says it's the fact that this is Donald Trump, has allowed the Palestine situation to carry on that has concerned me. I mean, how they can commit a genocide in Palestine and get away with it is just beyond belief. It really is. And I'll probably mention this again. I'll bore everybody with this. If it wasn't for Palestine, I probably wouldn't be here. And I've mentioned this several times. My dad, during World War II, was in the full siege of Malta. And they were starving, literally starving to death. And a ship managed to run the gauntlet and get through because there was a blockade of Malta, and it had Palestinian chocolate. And each man got one square of chocolate, which kept my dad alive. So if it hadn't have been for Palestine, I probably wouldn't be here. So thank you, Palestine. I get sometimes a little bit choked when I say that. So I've got a very soft spot for Palestine because, I'm here because of that.
One more reason to support them. But when you guys mentioned about the guns here in the United States, I'm neither left or right. I'm always kind of by myself on an island. But on the Second Amendment issue, I've really grown tired of the Second Amendment people, because during the unconstitutional lockdown, the entire country was locked down. So we don't know how many small business owners were forced to shut down and lost their businesses, lost their livelihood. And if that's not unconstitutional, I don't know what is. How many of those owners, if that wasn't a time to take up arms and say, no, we're not going to you can't make us shut down our businesses. No one did a thing. You had one lady in Dallas, and you had a gym owner in New Jersey. That was it. Of course, because they were isolated, because you didn't have hundreds getting together. If you had hundreds of gun owners there together and blocking every one of those businesses, they couldn't have done anything. But they didn't. So my point is, what exactly are you going to use your guns for? And I'm saying the reason that the founders made the Second Amendment is not to go hunt, not for target practice, that you're doing. It was to protect you from a tyrannical government. Correct. If we don't have a tyrannical government now, I don't know when we have. I'm more concerned about the First Amendment and the Fourth Amendment, all the amendments. But the Second Amendment, we have in America, as I understand, we have more guns than any country has ever had. I don't have millions and millions. So, I don't think you're going to fight the military-industrial complex, but they could have made a stand against when they locked everyone down. I kept waiting. For churches. Some of those pastors, and I kept waiting them for arm themselves. You're not going to stop us from going to church on Easter Sunday. You can't do that. Right to it, but nobody did anything. And
you're spot on. And did you find? I mean, I didn't wear a mask at all, and I walked around a huge supermarket. I was the only one not wearing a mask.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, people are so compliant. And you got the little dictators coming out. It's, as if you're unclean, as if you're a leper or something. Ooh, But someone mentioned something that say I'm exempt from wearing a mask. I think you probably had your exemptions as well.
Yeah.
Because I've got FFB. Because, oh, really? Yeah. So I've got FFB, a fully functioning brain. I never, that was quite a good one. But
Yeah.
I used to actually act deaf. That was real fun. Pardon? Can you come a bit closer? I can't quite hear you. Pardon? Pardon? And I but
I wonder, with what you were saying there, Donald, about the about people not bearing arms when they had the opportunity to do so. I wonder if there's any link between people not wanting to do that and the arm spears, should we say? Has that been used to dumb people down to the point where they won't even?
Yeah.
They don't know how to defend themselves, and basically.
Well, yeah, I don't think so. But these are people that are, they call them gun nuts. Guns mean everything to them. And you talked about the school shootings and everything. They all go crazy. And they're, I mean, I don't know how many times Barack Obama is going to take our guns. Nobody ever took their guns at all. They started chipping away at the First Amendment, and they eviscerated the Fourth Amendment a long time ago. Alice Gorgeous is talking about how you can't, you're not allowed to block roads or disrupt infrastructure, which we can still. But we started losing our Fourth Amendment rights for good when they started allowing, I don't know if they do it over there, but you don't have a Fourth Amendment, where they allowed, stop the police to stop random checkpoints, to stop vehicles. And, again, that's completely unconstitutional, violates the Fourth Amendment. I remember at the time, I was very young, and I said, how can you all let this happen? That's what happened in America, at least. We let one thing after another happen, and nobody said anything. Nobody said anything. And then eventually you wind up with COVID, where the entire world was shut down, and nobody said anything. I mean, some of us did, but I wrote a book about it. But, I mean, once they did that, I said, there's nothing they can't do, because if we allowed them to do that, what are we not going to let them do?
But I was surprised at how placid people really were. It was unbelievable. And I felt very isolated. Am I the only one that can? And it must have been similar for, I mean, did you find this, everybody else? Did you find you felt very isolated? You was a voice against thousands, millions, maybe? I don't know. I mean, but we even had in the supermarkets, outside supermarkets, we had these vans with huge, great screens on them, pumping out fear porn all the time.
Yes, all fear porn.
And I haven't got a television. I don't watch the television. But, you had these adverts coming on YouTube, fear porn, fear porn, fear porn all the time, Now, Blu-ray says it is Zionism that is the whole core. You're spot on. Yes.
I want to say that we had also a shift in technology that occurred with people going and remotely going to work with things like Zoom and like what we're doing now with online meeting more than in-person meeting.
That's right.
And it's kind of like during the Spanish flu pandemic that they had, that was around the time when radio technology was becoming a thing, and the just opening up of the technology seems to coincide with these wars and that kind of thing happening, where just a civil unrest in society and bankrupting too of people.
Patrick, I'm sure, I don't know about you, but or you guys in England, but here is talk about, there's such fracturing. Families were, Trump had already kind of started that, the Trump division, where families would break up because somebody voted for Trump or somebody didn't, they couldn't come to Thanksgiving anymore. Here in America, in my case, myself and my kids were the only ones in my family that didn't get vaccinated. So we were ostracized. My niece had a wedding and we couldn't go unless we got vaccinated. That's when you cross a line like that, that relationship can never be repaired. That's what happens, and that's what happens when because I resent the stupidity of doing something like that. But there's so many old people that died in nursing homes that couldn't have visitors. They didn't get to hug their loved ones. I mean, Mario Cuomo in New York, very famously, Andrew Cuomo very famously caused, had a controversy that actually got in a little bit of trouble. But I can't forget all that stuff. And I'm afraid they'll do it again. And I think they could. I think fewer people would be fooled, but I think we'd still be outnumbered.
And older people, have been known to die of loneliness. A lot of those people
Yeah.
were left alone and to
Yeah.
die without seeing their family. My grandfather was in the nursing home when that all occurred. Fortunately, just, most of those were dropped toward the end of his life, and we were able to be with him during his death. But it can really change a person's outlook on life and their will to live.
Oh,
I
it
think
can.
I think ultimately the problem where this goes is that we all know that it was all a hoax, and all these people who died
Yes.
in care homes alone, and were none of it needed to happen. It didn't. It was never. If everybody had seen through the lies and realised that it was all a
Yep.
hoax, it probably would never have happened. And I think for me, that's the biggest frustration of it all, is that people haven't twigged yet that the where granny and granddad were dying alone in care homes, where children were being given a medical intervention that was at higher risk than the thing it was supposed to be protecting you from, but people don't sort of twig on that one and work out that actually what we're doing is wrong. People still I'm still concerned that if it came down again, yes, a lot more people would say, no, we're not falling for it this time. But people will forget about what went on in 2020 and what the governments of the world did to
Yeah.
its people, basically. Maybe not its people, but you know what I mean.
They're
That
fickle.
the people in the care homes didn't need to die,
I
and
agree with you.
the government allowed that to happen deliberately. So
Yeah. You're spot on. But DJ B2 has come out with a cracker here. I don't know whether we can actually say this on air, but well, let's try it. She said BB has his hand so far up Trump's arse he can tickle his tonsils, and I think
Yeah, I
that's
saw that. Yeah.
spot on. And Mossad blackmail operations, I agree. And Alice Gorgeous. Now this is spot on. Now she's mentioned something that's very interesting. They've changed our protest rights. We're not allowed to block roads or disrupt infrastructure thanks to Extinction Rebellion and Just Stop the Oil Nuts. Well, Extinction Rebellion and Just Stop Oil, they were controlled opposition.
I'd say exactly the same thing. They'll
Yeah,
have been planted there because
that's
let's
right.
be honest, anybody else, if we were on the freedom marches, if we'd have gone and glued ourselves in front of a bus, they'd have probably just run us over anyway. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree completely that they
Well,
were put in place to allow that to change.
I live in I live in Hertfordshire, Chesham, where there's a printers works where they do printing, and you can't walk past this place. I mean, it's off of the A10 unless you've got security cameras looking at you. They're sort of following you along. I don't have any cycle past there on my bike, and that's how I found out. Yet, I think it was the Stop Oil protesters did a protest outside there, and it's bristling with security. I mean, if I sat down in the middle of that road, the security would be on me within seconds. And you can see them watching you as you're walking past. That's how security conscious it is. It's the print works there. So it's all organised. And isn't it funny you don't hear about Just Stop Oil and Extinction Rebellion now? They serve their purpose, don't they?
Yeah, but of course
Yeah.
the thing is, it'd only taken one lorry driver to have just stuck his foot down and minced them
Yeah.
up. They wouldn't do it again, would they?
No. I think Fred Dibner with his traction engine would have been the perfect idea. He's just come
Yeah.
along,
Well, none of the no, not a single world leader anywhere really questioned the COVID psyop. I call it the greatest psyop in the history of the world. And you can see over in my show, you kind of see that Masking the Truth, the book I wrote about it, which is I call the most shadow banned book in the world. They hid that. Amazon got rid of the Kindle version. Barnes and Noble banned it completely. It's you can still get it from the publisher, but they did everything could to stop that, because I went from the very beginning. And the only criticism you started hearing, people like Tucker Carlson and some other people started, once the warp speed vaccine came out and was obviously doing damage, then they started covering a little bit of that. But they never went back to the beginning, as I did, and questioned the entire thing. The fake Chinese falling dead in the middle of the street, and the women spitting on doorknob, all the crazy stuff. And I talk about how they know that the Chinese media eventually admitted that we were counting deaths from pneumonia and the flu, as COVID. Then you went to Italy, and they freaked out. They had the fake photo of all the coffins coming out of Italy. It was from another part of the world 10 years before, and they just misrepresented it to fool the people. And eventually they admitted, 99% of the people in Italy were elderly people that died of comorbidities, that died of something else. So they understand this. Once it got to New York, I talk about the empty hospitals and the dancing nurses. There was a part of this. I had people on my show that filmed the empty hospitals. That at the same time, our media was saying the same hospitals were overwhelmed and overflowing with patients because of the incredible pandemic. And again, these guys, these citizen journalists would go film. There was nothing there. The people, the EMT workers would be outside. The ambulances weren't even being used. They'd be smoking and cigarettes, joking, playing on their phones. They would laugh when they'd ask them, "Hey, where are all the COVID patients?" They'd just laugh. It was a complete joke. And, so the idea that you skip all that and just come out with the vax was bad, it was bad. But the point was, it was in response to nothing, that they never isolated. They admit they never isolated COVID-19. They couldn't isolate it. So they can't never proven it exists.
What do you think their motive is for this? Why did they do it? What really motivated it?
Well, I think, this was maybe like a giant litmus test to gauge just how well their programming had worked, I guess. And if so, they must have been high-fiving themselves and ecstatic. I mean, they had to have anticipated some opposition somewhere, not one country. The African leaders later questioned the vaccine and refused and then a bunch of them died. But nobody, there wasn't, Putin didn't stand up. Nobody stood up and said, "No, we're not going to do this. This is really stupid. We're not going to quarantine people. We're not going to wear masks. We're not going to be 6 feet from each other. We're not going to cancel." Everybody rolled over. They didn't need a single.
They were all in on it.
They didn't need not a single shot was fired to get the world to do that.
Do you think the thing behind it ultimately was they wanted to depopulate, which was always the agenda was always to get the arms spheres out to start the process of depopulation, because they were following the Georgia Guidestones that came down about 2 years after this nonsense came out, and they were following that where it said keeping humanity under 100 million, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that to me was ultimately the goal of that, was to start the depopulation process. And when they realized that people weren't falling for it as much as they could have, or they wanted, then the next step was to bring in the pride stuff. Because again, if you've got a load of children or whatever who don't know what type of individual they are, they're not going to have babies when they get older. Because if you've got a society full of gays and lesbians, they're not going to have kids. Mm-hmm. That's another step on the depopulation.
They're pushing that today. Today's the kickoff for that.
They are, and I think that was a major reason for it too, is that they wanted. This was run by eugenicists. Bill Gates, the foremost eugenicist in the world, was right in the center of everything. Mr. Non-scientist that was, acting like he was an expert. But what they did, they succeeded, because we still don't know how many people were killed. Not from, I lost my brother. My brother died in the hospital from COVID protocol. He didn't have COVID, but he went in before I could stop him. And then I interviewed tons of people that went through the same thing. We don't know. There's been a couple class action lawsuits. They can't get anywhere with it. We don't know if they killed thousands. Who knows how many people died because they would put people in there, put them on ventilators that they get paid money for, put them on just the diagnosis of COVID-19. They got paid money for. And we don't know how many people lost their lives like that. We don't know how many people were vaccine injured, how many kids dropped dead on playing fields, all the stuff we heard. But lots of people in Europe, not so much here, professional athletes dropping dead, young people.
That's
and
right.
we don't know how many there were. And all this was not because of any COVID. This was all in response to the vaccine, which was in response to nothing. But nobody, there wasn't a single person, except for me, that has gone back to the very beginning, that has said, no, this is, whatever platform I have. And we need to, so when they still talk about COVID-19, I cringe. As what is that? Define it. It's like anti-Semitism. Define it.
They had one leader in Tanzania, John Magufuli, that he actually criticized the COVID thing and had the tests done on vegetables.
Yes,
in
I remember that.
Yeah.
He paid the price.
He
Yeah,
died,
that's
yeah,
right.
shortly after.
Yes, yes, yeah.
It's strange. Yeah, I think he had an arranged death, didn't he, as I call it?
Died
But,
suddenly.
Yeah.
But Mike
Yep.
Mantis says, going back to Israel, he said, Israel has been killing Palestinians since 1948. Yeah, I know, because I work with a Palestinian. People seem to forget that. And another one which Mike Mantis has said, which is interesting, Israel has killed more British troops than the IRA did. Now, I didn't know. I know that they was it the King David Hotel? They blew that up and killed a lot of innocent
Yeah.
people, women
Yeah.
and children, men. And they also hung those two soldiers, which they
And
captured.
booby trapped their bodies to explode
Yes.
when they went to take them down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Killed more
What
people.
jolly nice people. And who was the head of that gang who became the prime minister of Israel?
Ben Gvir?
But
Or not Ben
Begin,
Gvir.
was it Menachem Begin? Yeah.
Ben
There's a
Gurion,
question.
too.
Yeah, Ben Gurion was. EXO in the chat room is asking me, what do I make of the second Cold War under Reagan as opposed to JFK? Well, there's a huge difference between obviously JFK and JFK is one of my heroes, and still the more I find out about him, he stands out in stark contrast to almost everybody else. JFK started out as a Cold Warrior. He realized, I think he was starting to realize how, and he gave the most incredible speech ever in June 1963 when he talked about, they call it the peace speech, when he talked about looking at our enemies in human terms. He said, they cherish their children's future and they breathe the same air we do. No political leader has ever said that. They have never looked at their political enemies in human terms. He did that, and he was killed. And we're learning more and more. I didn't think there was anything I could learn about the JFK assassination, but I just learned the other day that, I already know that JFK at the time of his death was involved in a huge struggle with David Ben Gurion over Israel developing nuclear weapons. And he had already threatened to withhold all aid to Israel if they didn't stop. And RFK, his attorney general, his brother, had tried 7 times to force AIPAC, or actually the parent organization of AIPAC, which became AIPAC, to register as a foreign lobby, which Thomas Massey just tried to do before he lost in Kentucky as well, without success. So they were at war with the Israeli lobby. And now I found out the other day that the IDF was in Dallas, Texas, up until 6 hours before he was killed. Why? What were they doing there?
Slap my thigh. What a surprise. I don't think.
I never heard that because I wasn't looking in that direction all those years. And so this, and in terms of Reagan looked at the Cold War much differently because Reagan brought in, he was a diehard Zionist, and he brought in the first group of neocons that dominated his administration, Donald Rumsfeld and people like that. And that's when Israel, the 80s was when everything turned and our foreign policy started to be centered on Israel and defending Zionism. Yeah. Before that, we weren't quite as focused on that. So I don't know. I think the Cold War was phony. So when it ended in 1989, I think it was just the end of a production.
I think you're spot on there.
Wasn't Trump's friends with the Kennedys? I always thought it was quite a close tie.
Well, he claims, but part of the Q movement is that they claim he was friends with JFK Jr., I think was assassinated as well. I've written a lot about that. But the Q people believe that JFK Jr. faked his death and behind the scenes is working with Trump and is going to emerge. So I don't know what point this is going to happen, but obviously most people realize what a psyop that was. But that's the way he's been connected. Other than that, I don't know. He was a Democrat before that, but he would have been too young to have anything to do with JFK Sr.
In his own mind, Trump is Jesus, isn't he? Have you seen those very cringingly embarrassing things?
Yes.
But now, Exo said, "Can I ask a question, Eric?" Certainly. If you could put your questions to Donald in capital letters, that would really help me. So please, if you've got a question for Donald, please put it in capital letters because I'll read it out. But the Kingston Whittler has come out, and I'm sorry if I'm missing some of your questions. Your items in chat, but there's a lot coming in. It's very busy in chat tonight, so please don't, please don't take offence. And Kingston Whittler said regarding lockdown, myself and my wife and children went on holiday, travelling down to Cornwall for the first day. They brought in the masks. I will never forget the first service station we visited. Yes, lots of us have had lots of very, very difficult situations.
Donald, I've got one thing to mention. Didn't RFK and Roy Cohn both sit on the council for Joseph McCarthy?
Yeah, they were, but both RFK started out as a junior counsel for McCarthy. Roy Cohn stayed longer there, and they clashed heads then. And of course, Roy Cohn had a relationship with Donald Trump later, the aging Roy Cohn. So, and again, I think that Roy Cohn was probably planted there to keep McCarthy from looking in a certain direction, and he did. And but yeah, I look at history. You probably know, Patrick, but I talk about the Kennedys a lot, and when we talk about not only JFK but his father Joseph P. Sr., and it goes back to Churchill and people like that, where Joseph Kennedy Sr. was he was an enemy to Churchill and Roosevelt and all the people that wanted World War II. He was part of the America First Committee, and they didn't like him. And he also was critical of Jewish power, the non-Irish power. And when Israel was about to be born, he was very vocal on the subject. This is really stupid. And there's a great letter that a 17-year-old, 22-year-old JFK, it's brilliant to see his mind at that young of an age. He wrote a letter to his father, and he analyzed the situation. This was like 8-9 years before Israel was created, about what a disaster it would be. And you could tell him and his father had talked about it before, and he analyzed it beautifully about how the Arabs are going to react. And he analyzed the non-Irish mindset and what they tended to do. And if you look at that and realize that this guy became president later and was at war with Israel, the only president we've ever had, it becomes clear what really happened. And then you look at the people he hung around with. He hung around with James Forrestal. He toured Europe with him. James Forrestal became Truman's Secretary of Defense. And they pushed him out of a window at Bethesda Naval Hospital. They claimed he jumped. And he was, again, a very vocal critic of Israel, as was JFK's father. So you look what happened to all those people and the way they get written about in terms of history. And then the people like Churchill and Roosevelt that become the heroes. And that's the kind of stuff I write about. It's hidden history, and it's everything you know is wrong, basically, about history.
Have you got a publishing house which we can sort of go to if people want to get your books? Now, your email address is going along the bottom.
Yeah, sure. It's and you could my Substack is where the only place I'm not shadow banned is donaldjeffries.substack.com. I write that's where I have my biggest audience. But I've had several different publishers. Skyhorse, which is a division of Simon and Schuster, is the only big one. They published 4 of my books. But it's, if you search for me, author Donald Jeffries, you'll find all my books. I've got 10 of them out there. And I wrote a book on showbiz. I wrote a book on bullying in schools. I wrote a book on the economy. But 3 books on hidden history that are the ones that people are most interested in. They're easy to find. And if you have questions, you can email me or find me on Substack.
Fantastic. Substack, right? I think you're gonna have quite a few members, including myself, some Substack. So I can write a tickler. We call it a tickler that goes along the bottom of your Substack. So if I put Donald Jeffries Substack, we should be able to find you.
Yeah, it's donaldjeffries@substack.com.
Fantastic. And now Alice Gorgeous, I'm not sure I can read this out on here, but I'll, shall we say, I'll clean it up a bit. It's my birthday month. Won't ask you how old you are. Actually, celebrate that. I'm getting a straight flag with a humongous phallic symbol, I think, on it. I think I've said that rather politely.
Oh, is it a picture of Keir Starmer then?
Well, he likes going up the Arsenal Football Club with his mate Ali, doesn't he? Nothing rude there. No, nothing rude. I mean, let's face it. Both us, Don, we grew up in a time when it was an optimistic time. I mean, America was the place to be. I mean, everything was, wow, fantastic. And suddenly that went tits up, excuse my language, in the 1970s, almost overnight. Bang.
Yeah.
It went wrong. Now, again, I'm sorry if I'm missing your Missing anybody? Where are
Well,
we?
I see a question from Exo. He's asking me, and it's ironic you mentioned Jeff Rentz. I'm on Jeff Rentz's show every Monday, so I'll be on tonight at 9 o'clock my time. You guys will probably be fast asleep by then,
Oh,
but
we'll be
9 o'clock
fast
my
asleep,
time. But
Oh.
you can catch the reruns, and we do talk about that a lot. I'm the one that started talking him a lot, talking to him a lot about James Forrestal and Joe McCarthy, who's been unfairly. And Joe McCarthy was another friend of the Kennedys. He dated some Kennedy sisters. He was godfather to Kathleen Kennedy, RFK's oldest daughter. They don't like to admit that now, but yeah, he is. People like Forrestal and McCarthy, both, especially McCarthy, are represented as fascists or worse. And McCarthy was a genuine American hero. He was trying to find. He was trying to find out Soviet spies because he didn't realize it, but he was seeing basically the phony nature of the Cold War, that we were involved with each other because we were pretend enemies. So and they killed him. They killed him after they killed Forrestal. Forrestal died in Bethesda Naval Hospital after they pushed him out of a window. A few years later, after McCarthy had written a pamphlet on the murder of James Forrestal, he was a United States senator at the time, and he was accusing somebody of murdering this Secretary of Defense. So, and then he goes in. Now, why he went into the Bethesda Naval Hospital, I don't know, but he supposedly had a knee problem. 49 years old. 2 days later, he's dead. No autopsy ever given. He's smeared and just he was a horrible alcoholic, and who knows? I don't know, but it's that's what you get with history.
He was getting too close to the non-Irish question with the whole Un-American committee because you had people like Bernard Baruch who put Roy Cohn in. Yep. If you read Leonard Feeney's work about it, Leonard Feeney being the one that converted Avery Dulles to Catholicism. Yes. Yep. So there's a lot that went on along those lines. Yeah. I wanted to ask you. We had a friend. I interviewed him shortly before his passing. I was telling Eric about his book, "Your Mother's Not a Virgin," John Barber.
Yes, my good friend.
He was a very interesting person. Lived a very interesting life as far as the people he met in positions of power and fame. Mm-hmm. I was wondering if you could maybe mention to the Eric's audience about him.
Yeah, well, I recently lost him. He's 93 years old. But he was great shape up until I still really know. He's 93. So it happens obviously. But most rewarding friendship of my life. He would call me. We did many, many, many interviews together. Back in the day when I was young, I watched his television show, Real People, which was the #1 show on TV. But he started talking too much about the Kennedy assassination. He worked with Jim Garrison. He's the only guy to interview him after the Clay Shaw trial. And so he was blacklisted from Hollywood. And ironically, we talked about Israel and stuff. It wasn't until after he died, I was watching something where I hadn't seen him before, and he talked about being half Jewish. I had no idea.
You didn't know that?
No, I had no idea.
Yeah, he had done lots of things. I'd seen videos of him defending the Israelis and that kind of thing too.
Oh, really? Because he knew how critical I was of him. I guess he was just too polite.
But it was back in the day. It was back in the day, like in the late 60s, early 70s. Yeah, I think it was the Munich thing, the whole standoff during the Olympics.
I think he had come around a lot in terms of that. But I see somebody asked me in the chat what was my solution. I don't have. The only, as I said, if you've read 1984, you know what Orwell talked about the proles, and he talked. Yeah, Alice Gorgeous, great name. But he talked about the proles so outnumbered the inner party that all they had to do to defeat them, it was like a horse getting up and shaking off the flies. That's what we outnumber the elite by the hundreds of millions, and around the globe we outnumber them by the many billions. It'd be very easy, but we can't come together because we're distracted by race and gender and
psychological warfare
and fear, constant depression. And actually, EXO, he's put it in capitals, and so has Alice Gorgeous. I think you have actually answered this one, but I'll read it as is. People like Jeff Rentz claim Joseph McCarthy, I like him as well, was highlighting a critically hidden aspect of post-World War II America, but mainstream academics, etc., see him as a fascist. And again, you've answered that. What does Donald think? I'll see if there's any more in capital letters here. Where are we? Oh, wasn't it's another one. Mike Mantis has said, wasn't Forrestal friends with
I hadn't
Admiral
heard
Byrd?
that. I hadn't heard that, but it wouldn't surprise me. And Admiral Byrd is part of this thing too. We were discussing him on a
He was
show.
a Freemason, wasn't he, Admiral Byrd?
I
'Cause I
don't
did a
know,
show on-
probably, but the thing about it, and you can still find it on YouTube. I was on a show, Canadian friend of mine last week, and we talked about it. You can still find it. He did an interview in the 1950s, early 1950s, with the Longines. It's called the early television, and he had just come back from the South Pole, and he just suddenly drops this bombshell where he taught, he said, talk about what you saw there, and he said, well, we found a land beyond the pole that is twice the size of America and has all the resources we never need. Now, and you can kind of see the reports, and much as they do now, you could see how they quickly shifted and went to another subject. Even then, I said, what he's talking about something that absolutely demolished our knowledge of the world at that time. What land beyond the poles? What are you talking about? Nobody said it. What? And again, this is Admiral Byrd. It's not a conspiracy theorist. It's not a thought criminal like Don Jeffries. This is the guy that was the most famous explorer in the world, who had been all around. And he said that. And I don't know if he maybe didn't realize he shouldn't have said it, but he was dead not that long after that. And I talked to his grandson actually about 5, 6 years, 7 maybe later, because I was trying to write about it. And I asked him if he'd ever seen that thing, and he was completely unaware of it, or he was pretending to be. And I said, because what do you think he was talking about there? Do you think you could make a mistake about that? And it wasn't long after that they came up with the Antarctic Treaty, where nobody can go to that. And that's what why you get the flat Earth theories and the hollow Earth theories and all the UFO theories. Something's going on there.
Maybe that's why Peter Thiel is moving down to Argentina to be near there.
Yeah,
EXO has said, out of a window on LSD with exclamation marks. But my theory was his situation. I guess he's talking about McCarthy, Joe McCarthy. I don't know.
Well, the LSD thing. I think he's getting that mixed up with Frank Olson. Frank Olson was on LSD, was a CIA official, and he was pushed or jumped out of a window after that because the CIA was experimenting with LSD back then, about the same time. But Forrestal was, you're right though, Forrestal was interested in the UFO issue as well. I think he was killed probably mainly because of Israel, but he was interested in that.
Because but my theory was his situation was linked to the 1947 UFO ET issue when he was a strict Catholic, and it messed with his world. Don't know anything about it.
It makes you wonder about this technology with the drones these days, where maybe they had these like quadcopters even back then. They just didn't tell people about it. It's like the vapes, those vapes that people use now. It's just taken over for people smoking. Was a patented idea back in the 1960s that just never caught on. I mean, these technologies exist, and then they're introduced and become popular. I think that there's an agenda behind it.
Well, the thing is,
sorry, carry on, mate.
So the technology that we get today has been, we're always the last to get it, aren't we? Like the smartphones and stuff. I mean, they've been around a lot longer than we're told. I mean, we get them as new technology now, but they've been around for decades. We're always so far behind.
Well, Donald, this is Exo, says, you are the best type of thought criminal in my book.
Well, that's very kind. I want to be a good thought criminal if I'm going to be one. I appreciate that.
Exo's friends with Jeff Rentz, by the way.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Just to let you know, yeah.
Well, so you're probably listening to me. I more people hear me on his show than anywhere else. He has a big audience.
Now, Admiral, because there's Operation Pedestal, I'm not sure if Admiral Byrd was actually involved in that one, but that was the one where a lot of the U.S. Navy went down on an exercise to the Antarctic. But
there's another story too about Admiral Byrd that supposedly, and I haven't been able to verify it, that he saw dinosaurs or some kind of creatures like that when they went there. I don't know if that's true, but I've heard that as well.
Because I find it interesting that we've got like America and Russia at each other's throats, and all these other nations fighting each other. But then but then we get to penguins in the South Pole, and they can all come together to protect them. It's complete. Pardon my French, it's complete bollocks, and it's let's be honest, we know that the South Pole is there's more there than just penguins. Let's put it that way.
Well,
They're
that's
hiding
right.
something. They're hiding something there. I don't
They
know.
are. And now it's just the Jolly Man said, didn't Admiral Byrd and the other 5,000 peeps claim to see UFO saucers with the Vril mark on them, VRILL mark on them?
I don't. Again, I think that's related to what when he saw the dinosaurs or strange things there. I don't know, but maybe they claim that too. They claim lots of stuff about Admiral Byrd. All I know is that you can see it for yourself on video that he did claim there was a land beyond the poles. That was, so that's I can verify.
Well, there was I did a show on him, and apparently there's a plaque somewhere down the Arctic, which is a Masonic plaque, which he got put there. So
Do you find it interesting if you go on Google Maps, which is supposed to be live from satellites, which obviously I don't believe exist anyway, but if it was, if you search for the Arctic, it's nowhere to be found. You can't find it on there. It's not on Google Maps anywhere.
Yes, right. I know one thing, it's bloody cold there, but Alice Gordon says lots running away to Argentina, apparently. Yeah, why Argentina? Why is that? And whoever was a Catholic, I don't know. Perhaps he travelled a long way and he's a Roman Catholic. Sorry,
well, Argentina was always kind of like a colony, kind of set up like the state of Israel. Back in the, if you read back in like the late 1800s, they were talking about doing that. Like the whole like Theodor Herzl type organizations were setting up immigration from places like Russia and Turkey to that direction.
Well, there's parts of, I think, is it Argentina that you think it's Bavaria, because it's all German speaking, and they got houses that look like something out of the Tyrol, and it's like a mini Germany. And there's other areas that are like Britain, where there's a lot of English spoken. It's a very, but there's another place. Oh, where is it now? Uruguay. There's a lot of German speaking areas there, and a lot of English speaking areas as well. And that is where the late great Dave Starbuck was going to go to, and that was Uruguay. But now this is the thing that gets me. They always put Nazi towards it. Mike Mantis says something going on in the Antarctica, those underground Nazi bases.
Everything Nazi.
Well, I very much doubt it, because I don't think they had the technology to sort of to go there. But
wasn't that one of the links to do with when they got AH out on the Operation Paperclip? Wasn't one of the destinations for that supposed to be the Antarctic?
I think he ended up in Argentina. It seems like. But.
Really, I don't know, but there is, who was it looking into it? Because someone's looking into it where they reckon he may have been given drugs to put him to sleep and to get him out.
There's Harry Cooper. I think you're thinking of, and there was that Australian guy, another one.
Yes,
he told us about.
We will. Let's face it, we will never know.
No, and you know that whole area, Argentina, had a lot of people flee after the war from places like Germany, but also from places like Russia. And you had people fighting in Argentina in the late 70s. I read before Pope Francis died here last year, he came out with an autobiography about his life in Argentina, and there was lots of violence going on between the fascists and the communists in Argentina toward the late 70s, like people being pushed out of helicopters and that kind of thing. And then you had the war, the Falklands War with Britain. There's a lot of stuff going on that most Americans don't know about.
Ask Exo says a lot about. He's been on my show talking about that island and the strange goo from an island,
and the Marconi men from Marconi.
Right, the Marconi men, the strange suicides and things like that. But now, Mark Mantis says there's Welsh speakers in Patagonia, as well as giants, just as big as Welsh area. Please to goodness. Someone said, wasn't Adolf Hitler in Sparks? That was the product. Yes. Well, didn't you know that? But no, I mean, we don't know, as I say, what really happened. But all we do know is that a lot of, in Operation Paperclip, they were brought over for the space thing, weren't they? And America, that again is very, very strange. It's very, very odd what really went on, but it's still very, very odd why Great Britain involved itself in World War II when we needed done. Very odd. It was under no threat. Very strange, right the way through. But the situation that we've got now with Iran, do you reckon that, again, it's all planned at high level? What's your feeling on that, Donald?
Oh yeah, certainly. I don't think, as FDR said, he was one of the all-time great conspirators. He said, nothing in politics happens by accident. If it happened, you can bet it was planned that way. And it's Exo, yeah. So he has listened to Jeff Rense. That's what he said. That's one of James Forrestal's quotes, and I quote it all the time because it's conspiracy, dogma. That if this wasn't a great conspiracy, once in a while they'd make a mistake in our favor. So I argue against the randomness of it. So here, I don't think there's anything random about Iran. We know that, Bibi Netanyahu has been trying to get America to go to war with Iran for 40 plus years, and no American president, unbelievably enough, was, I guess, willing to do it, or they weren't willing to pull the trigger on it. But yeah, it's really unfortunate because, and that's why that somebody like Trump, the presidents have no control over anything, because it's just, talk about politically stupid. He knows he's wrecked his base and completely over this, and he sees the gas prices, although he denies it. Yeah. He knows everything's going to hell in our economy, and he's still willing to do it because he has to. He held Netanyahu's chair out for him, so it's very clear who's in charge.
Have you read any of Donald Trump's books?
Have I read? No, I have not.
Yeah. No? Okay, because he did a book in 2013 that I read. It was called Time to Get Tough. And he outlines what is going on at the moment, where he said that his goal is to break up OPEC, so that they can't negotiate the price of oil. And OPEC being an agreement that was initially in the 60s created between Venezuela and Iran. And then it gradually grew into larger, a coalition of Nigeria, Saudi Arabia, all these other countries, eventually Dubai. But his goal was to break it up because he considered them to be, just fixing prices, and then the people on Wall Street aren't given a chance to fix the price. So it's out of the hands of Wall Street. It's put in the hands of the OPEC nations, who are oil rich in the good petroleum products that everybody uses, most of the world uses, China in particular. And we've alienated China, and so they've gone into the arms of Iran. It's only natural. That he's if you had read what he was saying and listened to what he was saying and not believed the hypnosis of the America First and the MAGA stuff, because I was a big sycophant for Trump. I was making calls for him in 2016 for the 2016 election. I was working with their campaign here in Wisconsin. Even went to go meet him up in Superior. And it's, if you'd been paying attention though, he meant what he was saying. And the people who followed him, the megatards as they're called now, I was one of them. You just had to say, how come we didn't see this coming? Well, he was saying it the whole time. It's just that he was cloaking it in this idea of America First, hearkening back to Charles Lindbergh and Joseph, Kennedy, and these sorts of people. So he's very clever.
Oh yes.
Do you think it's a different Donald Trump that's in there now than was in
No, I think
previous
it's the same.
term?
He's the same.
But,
I think he's deceptive to get business done.
Mike Manchester says we were in World War II, so Winnie could have all his debts paid off. Spot on. £19,500, which is about how many dollars? How many bucks is that? That's about $25,000, I would say. That which is a lot of money in those days. He got it paid off by the City of London, and they're not going to pay him off for nothing, are they? And who is the odd one out of these characters? Okay, Adolf Hitler. Now hang on, let's get this right. Johnson, Adolf Hitler, Johnson, British Prime Minister Jim Callaghan, and Gerald Ford. Who is the odd one out of those four? So we got Gerald Ford, Jim Callaghan in the United Kingdom, Adolf Hitler. Oh, sorry, and I forgot Winston Churchill. So it's Winston Churchill, Adolf Hitler, Gerald Ford, and Jim Callaghan in this country. Who is the odd one out?
What do you mean by the odd man out? I don't know who Callaghan is.
Out of those four, there's one that's an odd one out.
I don't know who Callaghan is, so I'm not sure who that
well, James Callaghan, he was a Prime Minister of Great Britain in the late 70s before Margaret Thatcher.
Okay, I should have heard of him. But I don't know. I think Gerald Ford out of those is probably the least significant, even though he became president. But I don't know.
Well, the odd one out of all those is Adolf Hitler, because he was the only one that was elected. The rest of them weren't elected.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Winston Churchill wasn't elected. He came in because of the death of Chamberlain. Gerald Ford wasn't elected because he came in after
Nixon.
Nixon, that's right.
Resigned.
And Callaghan came in after Wilson, and they weren't elected. So Adolf Hitler was the only one that was elected. So there we are. But now Exo has said here, hang on. He said, can I ask one more question, Eric? And then I'll shut up. You can ask any questions you like, mate. It's an open house. Exo, it is historically attributed to the United States First Secretary of Defense, James Forrestal, who said it to Senator Joseph McCarthy in 1946 regarding the infiltration of government by communists.
Yeah, he's talking about that quote about if there wasn't a conspiracy, once in a while they make a mistake in our favor. It's a beautiful way to describe it too.
And sorry, mate, I didn't mean to cut across you.
Okay, I was looking at that question. Yeah.
Yeah. At what age did Donald feel drawn to investigate the UFO topic compared to the JFK one?
Well, I've explained, JFK was always my first seed, but I was interested in UFOs as a little kid. And when I started reading everything on the JFK assassination, the UFOs were my second seed. I was still reading a lot on them. So I studied them a lot in the 70s, especially, maybe a little into the 80s. But I kind of lost interest in it at some point. I mean, the political stuff took over, and I had, originally thought they were aliens like everybody else. And eventually I determined that they weren't aliens. I think there's some kind of government op or whatever. So I kind of lost interest in it. I've rekindled a little bit in recent years because the government suddenly seems, the same government that covered it up for so long now seems to treat it seriously. And so I'm a little scared of Project Bluebeam, of a fake alien invasion, because they seem to be throwing that out there as a possibility.
Are you going to watch the new Steven Spielberg movie, Disclosure Day? Have you heard of it?
No. What is it about?
It's called Disclosure Day.
Oh, okay.
And it's coming out soon, I think. And I don't know. It just seems like it's like aliens and that kind of thing. The normal Spielberg theme.
Agenda.
Yeah.
Agenda. A bit like the day the Earth stood still in the 1950s. That film. And
of course, you had ET as well, extraterrestrial, which is extraterritory, which would link back into Admiral Byrd, which is extra territory.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the Close Encounters and that.
Sure, Close Encounters.
Now Exo says 12th of June. I'm not quite sure. Do you know what 12th of June? What's going to happen in 12th of June?
I don't know.
Yeah. Now, Hereditous Get Fucked, which is it sounds like a cultural attaché, doesn't it? Hereditous Get Fucked. Can someone get rid of Jeremy Finn Kyle? Kyle.
Who?
Who is Jeremy Finn?
Oh, Jeremy Kyle.
Yeah, who's he?
Yeah. Jeremy Kyle. Isn't he the one that used to do the TV things with, where he used to get chavs on to Chavvy women who'd had
Oh,
like 4 million children, and then say that they were,
yes.
that
Like the
Milton was
Maury
the
Povich of
dad.
America. Yeah.
Oh, Exorcist, 12th of June is the release date of the film.
Oh.
Yeah,
So,
the Disclosure Day one, the Spielberg one.
yes, yes. It's a bit like Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Hmm.
Which, but do you actually, regarding UFOs, do you think that some of it could be demons that people were watching and people saying, "Oh, well, he's on about his demons again"? But yeah,
Well,
do you think
he did that movie Poltergeist. Remember
he?
that? Yeah, the spirits
Hmm.
haunting a house.
Yes, but no, I mean, I really do believe there are demons, and I'm
Yeah,
wondering
they are.
whether some of these UFOs are that people think it's from outer space, but they're not. They're on Earth.
Yeah. A lot of people think
You know?
that.
Yes. And Mike Mantis says Jeremy Kyle and Warsaw's finest. I think who's that bloke that used to have punch ups on his show?
That was Jeremy Kyle.
No, an American. He was a non-Irishman.
Well, what's
What
his
was his
name?
Oh,
Jerry Springer.
Jerry
Oh,
Springer.
Jerry
Yeah.
Springer. Yeah.
He was sort of English, wasn't he? And yeah, you always used to have people either crying or having a punch up.
Oh,
That was
God.
part of the show, you know. That was,
WWE theater, yeah.
yeah, it was theatre. Yeah. And I mean, I couldn't give a damn who was having an affair with someone else. It doesn't really bother me. Yeah. But I think they got paid actors and actresses on there.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
That's the thing. But have you heard of John Hamer at all, Donald? Because he's written a book called, I think it's called JFK, A Very British Coup, or words to that effect.
No, I have not heard. I haven't heard of that.
And he's been on my show several times. In fact, it's about time I got him back on. And he's an author. He's written extensively about the Titanic and how it's not the Titanic that sunk. It was
I heard
switched.
that.
And
Sister
it was,
ship, yeah.
and to do with the setting up the Federal Reserve.
Yes.
Because most of the people on it were against the Federal Reserve.
Mhm.
But no, he reckons that it was the British that was involved with the assassination of JFK. But I've seen the picture or the film, very slow film, that showed the driver turn round as if he had a gun and shot JFK in the head. What's your feelings about that?
Yeah, I'm aware of that. It's William Greer was a driver. I think William Greer should have been maybe the first witness questioned by an investigation because he certainly didn't act like a driver should have acted. He should have sped out of safety. I doubt very seriously. I've seen the thing where he did turn around and look at and watch his head get blown off. I don't think he shot him. I had a guy on my show that thought George H.W. Bush was a gunman in the Dallas Records building, So, and I've had people that thought Jackie did it. So this is the problem: is when it's not investigated, you're going to come up. People are going to speculate and they're going to theorize. Greer, I think that's born out of Greer as the driver, was obviously a conspirator because he didn't act the way any driver would have acted. He broke any kind of training. At the sound of gunfire, they're trained to get out of there quickly. The other Secret Service agents should have been on the car. They had 6 seconds or more to react and knocked JFK down and completely covered him up. They didn't do that. They didn't react at all from start to finish. So if I was conducting the investigation, a real investigation would have called the Secret Service first and established clearly they were involved because they let it happen, and then find out why. Why did you let it happen? Did you think this was a drill? A lot of people speculate the Secret Service was told to stand down because this is a drill. JFK is not taking this seriously. Don't worry, it's not. And then what were they supposed to say afterwards? I mean, I don't know, but I don't think Greer shot him. But I think that he was one of the first persons that should have been grilled and find out exactly what were you doing there? Why didn't you speed out of safety as your training would have you do?
I know who didn't shoot him. That was a chap called Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yes, that's the first. That's the only thing.
I know that for a fact he didn't. And they actually, did you ever see that? Where they had a target car, and they went to the suppository, and they got a crack shooter with the same gun or similar gun, and he missed. He just got one in. I think
they've never been able to duplicate it. No, they've never been able to duplicate it.
No, but we got here. What is it now? We got. Hang on, there's so many questions coming. It's so busy. I've missed a question here. Where is it? Oh yes, please get John Hamer back on, Chris. Yes, I have to. I'll.
You should get him on with Donald. They could compare notes because he's done a lot of
Hang on a
books
minute.
too.
Are you up for that, Donald? Do you fancy that coming on with
Sure,
John
I'll-
Hamer?
Sure, of course.
He is from Yorkshire, though, so we might have to have a translator.
Okay.
Now, Alice Gorgeous was talking. I think she's talking about. Mentioned his name earlier. It's just gone straight out of my head. Where they had punch ups on his show. Springer, Jerry Springer, horrid program. He bonked my ma, and now the dog is pregnant. Vontastic. Yes.
Alice has it about right.
Yes. We had it over here. Now, we got here. Alice Gorgeous says all these people mentioned were interviewed back in the day on Raconteurs News. Now, EXO has come back with another question. Here we go. Thanks, EXO, for putting it in capitals. It really does help me. What does Donald think of the James files in prison testimony given to Jim Mars? I saw it years ago and thought him highly credible. So, what's your view on that?
Files is the most prominent person who confessed to being a gunman. I don't know. Is it possible? Sure. And he does come off as pretty credible. Researchers are kind of split on him. I don't know. I think that he hasn't been illuminating in that, going to tell us too much about the conspiracy. So if he was a gunman, yeah, that's certainly important. But I think that especially now, my direction is really going towards Israel more because in the JFK files we had released last year, Tulsi Gabbard got rid of all the redactions, and every one of the redactions had to do with Israel and James Angleton. It was probably the CIA's man connected to the Mossad. So I think that's where, they didn't do it exclusively, I don't think, but they were a key player there. There's no question, especially now that I know the ADF was in Dallas. So I don't know. James Files, it's possible he was a gunman. I don't know, but I don't look at Cuba. I think Cuba is a complete distraction.
Oh, I think it is. And also Soviet Union, the other one.
Definitely. This was homegrown. It was our government and maybe Israel.
Well, there'd be no reason for I can't think of his name now. He was in Soviet Union at that time. He used to bash his shoe on the table. Khrushchev, thanks, mate. Much appreciated. Yeah, I don't think he had any reason to bump off JFK.
No, of course not. No
now, all right, he had the standoff in 1962 in Cuba, but now Alice Gorgeous says there were 5 gunmen apparently, and what I wanted to ask you, Donald, is why was it that Johnson didn't duck? That's another weird thing. When the shots rang out, he didn't duck. He just sat there. Did he know?
Well, I think that there's lots of people that Penn Jones used to claim he did duck, but we do know his Secret Service reacted appropriately. Rufus Youngblood knocked Johnson down and was spread eagled over him immediately within a couple seconds. JFK's Secret Service unfortunately didn't act that way. Whether there were 5 gunmen, probably a triangular crossfire. I just know that how many gunmen there was more than one, and none of them were Lee Harvey Oswald. That's when people ask me who killed JFK. I start with the only thing I know for sure after investigating this for so long is Oswald didn't do it. I don't know who did it, but I know Oswald didn't do it. So they've lied about it.
But why did Jack Ruby turn up and shoot Oswald?
Well,
this is one that I can never understand, that one.
Well, you have again, this is why it's maddening, because you have a bunch of people now who don't think Jack Ruby shot him. I'm encountering them all the time. They think it was somebody else that shot him. I don't even understand it, but it is an interesting question. Ruby had a background that went back to Al Capone. He was a runner for Al Capone as a young guy. He also had some kind of a connection to Nixon at one point. So, Ruby, real name Jack Rubenstein. Again, a lot of non-Irish involved in this.
Yeah.
Ruby was, how did they get him to do it? I think he was some kind of Manchurian candidate. If you watch, like Sirhan, if you watch the video of Oswald getting it, there's a car horn that beeps right before Ruby jumps out. And I suspect that was his, what do you call it, his trigger.
Cue.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cute
Yeah.
because it's really immediately in response to the horn. And Ruby acted afterwards. He was very flustered. I mean, how could you get him to do it? It's a suicide mission, right?
That's
But
right.
he talked a lot of things. He said they're going to blame the Jews. He talked a lot about that.
Yeah, he
And
confessed to his rabbi
yeah,
that's why he did it.
yeah. So it's
It was a
it's
Daily
very
Forward
nonsense.
article.
He wanted to tell the truth. Jack Ruby very famously begged Earl Warren to get him out of Dallas so he could tell the truth. And Earl Warren said, well, we can't do that. Okay, because they didn't want the truth. So, and then Ruby, died, as you know, of what I call galloping cancer before he could go to retrial. And I don't know what he would have talked about, but there's also a videotape of Ruby sitting there that said, that he talks about when you say that, he said the powers behind the assassination of President Kennedy will never allow the truth to come to the forefront or something like that. And the reporter says, these very powerful positions in Washington, D.C., Jack. And he goes, yes. So he's on videotape saying it.
Now, that's
With
interesting.
the investigations into JFK, do you ever bring in things like numerology and gematria into it? Because that sort of I had a look at JFK when his granddaughter died, Titiana, because she died aged 35, and JFK was the 35th president, and his name, hang on a second, 1 second, I've got some. So John F. Kennedy equals 131, and assassinated is an exact match for 131 for his name. It's also 193, which links to assassinated as well. So I think that the dates they pick and the names and so on, they're specifically chosen on those particular dates.
Well, they may. I mean, again, I'm familiar with people that I'm not really into numerology. I don't understand it. It gets kind of intricate, and nothing. I thought maybe you're going to bring up the, there's a thing online that called the JFK assassination King Kill 33, which talked about all the Masonic influences, and the 33 is obviously a huge number with Masons. I don't know. All I know is that Oswald did not do it, and every powerful institution we had, the entire press, first time we really realized what lying state-controlled media we have. We don't have a free press. They lied about it from the very beginning. They never once attempted to investigate it. They demonized anybody that tried to. All our institutions, the FBI were involved in covering it up under J. Edgar Hoover. The CIA was involved, probably in the assassination and covering up. The Pentagon was involved. People like Curtis LeMay, the general, certainly were conspirators. Now we know Israel was probably involved. Maybe the Texas oil companies. Lyndon Johnson, I think, had foreknowledge as the president. So nobody stepped up. There was nobody in Congress, none of JFK's friends that say, this is ridiculous. We need to get to the truth of that. No one. So it's kind of like the COVID side. You see that when push comes to shove, nobody we had people in the heartland, the public never bought it, but nobody with a position of power ever speaks up. They're all in on it, or they're scared to talk.
Yeah. Yes, you're absolutely spot on there. Now, Mike Mantis says Angleton was a Mossad man as well.
Yeah, he was the Mossad's plant in the CIA. He was the connection. He has a memorial to him in Israel. That's how close he was to that. He was absolutely a Mossad agent. And it's I don't think any accident that he's the man whose name is mentioned over and over in the JFK files that were redacted. Clearly, I think he was Oswald's handler. I look a little bit away. Alan Dulles, I'm sure, probably knew, but I would look at Angleton as the conspirator's man in the CIA.
Many years ago, Oswald Mosley, Oswald, I'm not talking about Oswald Mosley. I'm talking about the
Lee Harvey.
Lee Harvey. Thanks, mate. His girlfriend did a tour of this country.
Oh, Judith Berry Baker. She's. Yeah. I mean, I kind of know her. We're friends on Facebook. Yeah.
She must be getting on a bit now, but she did a tour of this country about 20 years ago, talking about it. And Exo says, "I'm a little sad at your shift to Israel, Donald." So he's a little sad there. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not. I don't think that Israel was the main player, but all I know is that when those files came out, and every single redaction had to do with Israel and Angleton. And I've learned more, I didn't until Michael Collins Piper, the much maligned Michael Collins Piper, who's still not given credit in the JFK research community. I communicated with him a few times, and They turned their back on him. They wouldn't talk to him. He's anti-Semitic and all that. He's the one that discovered about the exchanges between JFK and David Ben-Gurion, that he was trying desperately to stop them from getting nuclear power. And just imagine American presidents saying, "I'm going to cut off aid to Israel." It's unthinkable. And at the same time, his brother, Attorney General, is trying to get AIPAC to register as a foreign lobbyist. And we know the power of AIPAC. And we saw Thomas Massey just tried to do it right before he was run out of Congress. So I think and now I know IDF soldiers were in Dallas. I don't know what they were doing there, but it all makes me believe that at least had some component to it. I don't know. I don't know if it was, and if you get the Kennedy family history, JFK's father was despised by the non-Irish because he had made many comments about them. He was one of the early critics of the Federal Reserve, and he was very much opposed to Israel. Behind the scenes, he was talking to his sons about this stuff. And he says, Exo says, especially in light of the Monroe Diary UFO. I'm not sure what he's talking about there. Marilyn Monroe, I've done a lot of research on that too. I think Marilyn Monroe was murdered, definitely. I don't think the Kennedys did it. And that's again, I think what the materials put out there it was originally put out right after in the mid-70s when JFK assassination research was really heating it up. They started putting this stuff out, and the inference was that, well, JFK was sleeping with her, RFK might have been sleeping with her. So they were terrible people, and they must have killed her to shut her up. I don't think so. I think that she was murdered. I think she was murdered maybe as a warning to them. I'm not sure if has that been credited. Marilyn Monroe had UFO material in her diary. I don't know.
So, she worked for a drone making company during the war. I know that much.
Really? Well, Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah, but she worked in a factory where.
Hello.
Well, I see. Echo's full of questions. I appreciate a question.
Add to stream. Yeah, come on, mate. You're back. You dropped out just then. Sorry, mate. I don't know what happened.
I don't know either. That was kind of odd.
Perhaps we mentioned a word that we shouldn't have done, a naughty word,
Well, yeah, other than Marilyn Monroe worked for a drone
hang on a minute. Oh, man, perhaps that's the key word,
We can't talk about Marilyn Monroe. Wow, all the stuff we can talk about.
Fellas, the headphones all sitting in the basement. Oh, hang on, he's mentioned a word. Quick, press the button, But
while I'm reading your question there, would I recommend being a book author to young people today on non-regular topics such as, I don't know that I'd recommend anybody being an author at all, because I'm doing it because I love it. It's what I always wanted to do. But I realized if I had been like Hidden History has done very well. By today's standards, I think it's sold 35,000 copies or so, which is really good today. But back in the day, that would have been a failure. But if it had been published 50 years ago, probably would have sold 500,000 copies, maybe. And I'd be able to make a nice living off it. So the thing is that most of the book readers died, unfortunately. It was a course of time. And so the younger generation, a lot of them don't read conventional books. So I get more readers on Substack, for instance. But I mean, I have a loyal base that does, but I make very little money on my books. So I wouldn't suggest it to people that try to make money on it. They can figure out something to write about. I haven't.
You don't make money out of books, so I can understand that. You still there, mate? I've reconnected. You keep sort of dropping out, and
sorry about that. I don't know why it's happening.
No,
one of your books, the one book that I really want to get and read is the one about the American crimes and cover-ups from 1776 to 1963. That one seems very interesting because there's a lot about American history that we're just given legend, but there are things like, have you ever heard of Charles Thompson? He was the secretary of the Continental Congress. He kept all the minutes to the meetings that they had during the War for Independence. And at the end of the war, he destroyed them all. He destroyed all of the records of the meetings.
Well, I don't think I know that. Wow, I wish I'd consulted with you. Right?
He also was the one that designed the Great Seal, and the back of it was the Novus Ordo Seclorum with the pyramid.
Yeah. Wow, no, I didn't know that. That's what. Wow, I have to check in there. There may be next volume. There may be another volume of Hidden History, so maybe that'll be in there.
Now, Now, Paul, do you want to read this out? Because you put it on the chat about John F.
Yeah.
Kennedy. Okay, mate,
Yeah,
fire
so
away.
John F. Kennedy, as I do the numerology stuff, as I said before, he's got a value of 131. An assassinated blood sacrifice ritual and human sacrifice ritual all equal 131. So they match his name. I've put a couple of others in there as well. That he was in office for 149 weeks, and skull and bones equals 149. And he was killed on the date that leaves 32 days in the year, and assassinated equals 32.
How weird.
That's deep.
And then there's a lot of coincidence between him and Abraham Lincoln too.
That's
I don't know if
right.
you've ever
Took the
seen
words
any
out
of
of
those.
my mouth.
Yeah.
Or is it his secretary or something?
Well,
Yeah,
some of
that
it, some
kind
of
of
it is
stuff.
true. I mean, again, of course, to buy that, and I remember that's one of the. I was 7 when JFK was killed, so but my Catholic family was talking about it and crying, and my memories started for real at that point. But I remember being fascinated by they were talking about it even then on the school bus, the connections between Kennedy and Lincoln's death. But I didn't know at the time. Kennedy did have a secretary named Lincoln, Evelyn Lincoln. Lincoln did not have a secretary named Kennedy. I don't know where they got that from. His secretaries were named Hay and Nicolay. So I don't know where they got that from. So I think it's made that up. And Booth did shoot Lincoln. But he ran from there to a barn. I don't think he went to a barn. I mean, that's a whole another story. I think that's a lie too. But Oswald didn't shoot Kennedy, so his assassin didn't flee to a theater because it wasn't his assassin. He didn't flee there. So it's interesting, but and there were parallels to it. But
what about the dental records with Booth, though? Because he turned up in Ohio, I think in 1910 or 11 or something like that. They reckon he was still alive in 1910 or
well,
11.
yeah, and that's the question that Patrick mentioned: crimes and cover-ups in American politics in 1776, 1963. While researching that book, I struck up a little friendship with John Wilkes Booth's great grandniece. He didn't have any biological kids. And she was very nice. Later, she deleted me on Facebook. I think it was either COVID or Trump. I don't know. I don't know what I did to offend her, but that happens a lot to me. But back then, we talked a lot, and the Booth family had been trying for years to get the body buried at Greenmount Cemetery in Baltimore under John Wilkes Booth's name to get it exhumed. Now, that's a very easy historical question that could be resolved, and usually in exhumation cases, the family controls whether it's done. If the family gives permission, okay. The National Park Service has always blocked that. Now, obviously, the question is quickly why. They could easily resolve. They could make the conspiracy theorists look dumb, but they don't do it, so they just add fuel to the fire. Go back even farther to Meriwether Lewis, the Lewis and Clark expedition. I talked to Meriwether Lewis's great grand nephew. Again, he didn't have any kids. They have been trying. The Lewis family's been trying to get his body exhumed for even longer because he died in the early 1800s. National Park Service blocks it again because they don't believe. They think he was murdered. They don't think he committed suicide. Again, they're so compelled to cover things up. Even something like that, Meriwether Lewis. That if you proved he was murdered, it would have no impact on today's politics at all. If you proved that John Wilkes Booth was not buried there, it would be a little stickier because all those Lincoln historians that called people conspiracy theorists, they would have egg on their face, and the court historians never want to admit they're wrong or that we're right. But it still wouldn't change politics today. So, but they're so committed to these lies that they can't do it.
Yeah, there's one thing about the Lincoln assassination that William Cooper brought up in his expose of the B'nai B'rith Freemason organization, the Jewish Freemason group, where Simon Wolf was a dead ringer for John Wilkes Booth and met with John Wilkes Booth on the morning of the assassination. It's worth listening to his whole series he did on the B'nai B'rith and the history of it because it's quite fascinating. Some of those parallels.
I've heard the William Boyd theory that the Lincoln conspiracy documentary it was made. That's interesting. I'll have to check it out.
Simon Wolf, yeah.
But I better warn everybody, in the next couple of minutes, some music will automatically come in, and Food for Thought Radio will leave us, but we will still be carrying on Rumble and YouTube, and of course Holy Land Radio and Holy Land FM. So I just thought I'd mention that. So if you're in mid sentence, please excuse the music.
Are we? How long are we going here? Are we going there?
as long as a piece of string, basically, or as long as it's but
Well, when the music comes on, I'll take a quick break and come back then. Okay.
well, yes, I think it's how long our bladder can last for. I think that's
Basically, yeah.
but,
until Eric feels tired and needs to go to bed.
yeah, because it's going up to about 10 here. But no, the thing. What do you think about this idea that Wilkes Booth's great grandniece or granddaughter was Sherry Booth, who's married to Tony Blair.
I heard that one. I don't. She didn't. She was. She talked. She talked like a Baltimorean. She you could tell she was from Baltimore, but she. I don't.
No, but I mean, I'm talking about Sherry Blair. Sherry.
I think she might. I think she might have mentioned Sherry Blair to me. It's something about her.
Yeah.
But okay. I think she mentioned that. I don't know.
But who knows? I mean, this is the thing. It wouldn't surprise me because Blair is a psychopath anyway. I mean, have you seen him? I mean, if he's not, here he comes. Here we go. Hey, here's the music.
Break time.
Yes, it's the Ockham Hall national anthem. So,
okay, is that break time? Okay.
Yeah.
The leader of the village choir, and his voice is warm and mellow. He drives a fruit cart around the street, and everybody knows it. He doesn't to sing or rave about his fruit, he simply blows it. He's doing it all day long. It's better than any song. Though it isn't very pretty, you've got to admit it's cute. So all together let it go. Eat more fruit.
You have been listening to Fockham Hall with Eric Von Essex. Remember, whatever you do, have a bloody good laugh.
And we say goodbye to Food for Thought Radio. And I'll just knock them off
1,
the...
2, 3.
Oh, it's gone. Went on its own. Don't know how that happens, but that's
Did that last night as well, didn't it? It disappeared off.
I'll have to have a word with Paul about that. I don't know quite why. What's that? Don's off. You won't see him again.
Hey, good. It's tactical though, because he's allowed to see his publications available on the.
That's right. All available. All from very good bookshops. I don't know if are they available. From Amazon and places like that. I wonder. I don't know.
I think so. Although obviously Amazon is a Mason.
Yes, that's right. Well, I thought it was a jungle.
A Mason? Amazon? Yeah, the logo.
Yes, that's right.
A Mason.
A Mason. Yes, I think Don will be back any minute now. But Jeff Wrench, I've known him for ages. Well, I say no, I've been listening to him. Fascinating character. And yes.
You should talk to him. See if you can get Jeff on here.
Yeah, might be a good idea. Yeah.
He's got a lot of stories to tell.
Yes. You're back. We're still live. Don't worry. We just said goodbye to Food for Thought Radio. We're still live on YouTube, Rumble, Holyland Radio, Holyland FM. Who else we live on? Patrick?
I have no idea.
Yeah. Oh, as I've
YouTube.
just said, Donald, we're still live on Rumble, YouTube, Holyland Radio, Holyland FM, and Uncle Tom Cobley and all.
So live over apart from FFT, aren't we?
Sorry,
FFT's gone.
Yeah.
Food for Thought Radio's cleared off now. Yeah, we've because we're only booked for 2 hours on there, and we can go on for as long as we want, really. But now I'll try and get John Hamer on. That's going to be interesting. The two of you together. And do you cover the Titanic at all? The actual lies we've been told about that?
It wasn't until I was when the Titanic movie came out, 98, I think. I remember getting swept up in that a little bit. Once in a while I get into non-conspiratorial stuff. My neighbor at the time, who just passed away recently, he was really into it, and we went to the Baltimore Aquarium to see Ballard, Robert Ballard. He had a
Mm.
talk, and he was the one who raised the Titanic, and he signed his
Yeah.
book for us. So that was kind of cool. But I never knew about any conspiracy elements till later. When I started reading about maybe the Olympic, the sister, they swapped them, and about who was it? Astor, John Jacob Astor, I think, was on board and died. I didn't realize that, and so yeah, it seems pretty strange that the high profile critic of the Federal Reserve, because all the on board that ship there was very class consciousness. Almost everybody that died was poor in the steerage section. So for somebody of Astor's name and reputation to not survive is definitely strange.
It's
J.P.
very, very odd.
Morgan. Was it J.P. Morgan who had the ship built or paid for it to be built and then cancelled his ticket 24 hours before it set sail?
I think it was, yeah. I think it was him. But there was a coal strike, wasn't it? They couldn't get coal for love nor money, but they managed to get the coal for, well, allegedly the Titanic, but according to John Hamer, it wasn't the Titanic. And I think there's a lot of evidence it was one of the biggest insurance frauds before 9/11.
Wasn't it a British military Navy ship that rammed the Titanic? The story goes, and then they tried to do an insurance claim.
That was the sister ship. Was it the Britannic? I could be wrong.
My understanding with the Titanic or the Olympic was the
Olympic.
Olympic was
the story.
The Olympic.
Yeah.
But you had the ship, I think it was the Californian, was the ship that they signaled or something, and
the California
didn't see it until later. It was very. It seems like they could have been rescued. I don't know, and I think that maybe the captain wasn't questioned, but yeah, the whole story I always did wonder about.
It is
because. Yeah, from and of course from an irony, they like to do symbolism too. So from an irony standpoint, that it advertised itself as unsinkable, and how ironic that it sank on the first voyage. I think they like to play around with those things sometimes.
Well, don't they reckon it was one of the boilers on board that actually exploded rather than actually hitting an iceberg?
Yeah.
And that's what caused it. It was deliberate. It was deliberate.
And it was all the lead up to World War I and the closing of the shipping that occurred during that time as well, because there were always these threats of attacks on shipping that led to
and I think it took place if I remember, I think it took place just about on the anniversary of the Lincoln assassination. Ironically enough, it was April 14th, I think.
How weird. How very, very weird. That is interesting. But there's loads of other cover-ups, like going back to World War One. The real reason why World War came to an end is because the French forces mutinied en masse, and they refused to go over the top. That was one of the reasons, and it was spreading, this mutiny, and that's why it came to an end. Oh, hang on. Titanic's, here it is. Titanic's Last Secret. This is, thanks, Mark Anthony.
Oh, John Hamer, that's the same guy?
Last Secret by John Hamer is a good read. That's right. So there we are.
He also did one Beyond the Ice Wall about Antarctica.
That's right.
So all these topics, it's kind of coincides. Yeah, you got to talk to him.
You've definitely got to talk to him. And when's your easiest day? Is it a Sunday or a Monday to come on, Donald?
Well, this time probably Monday would work better. This time, same time, yeah.
I'll try and arrange something, and we'll throw a date, because next Sunday I'm hoping to do a D-Day special, because the June the 6th is the 82nd anniversary of the landing of D-Day, and my dad was in the first assault wave of that. And
your dad was in a lot of interesting things in World War II. The invasion of Italy.
That's right. He was in Siege of Malta. Invasion of Italy, Sicily, and also D-Day. And he was drafted. He
wrote a book about it.
That's right. It took 10 years, and it's over 800. Well, it's cut down a little bit now. It's on Amazon. I think it's about 800 pages. So it's quite a book.
What's the name of it?
My World War II by David J. Powys, and you get it on Amazon. And if you look below in the description, you can see you can find out about it. Unfortunately, the website is down at the moment, but you can find it on Amazon, and that's about it. And with your books, Donald. By the way, thanks, Donald, for giving it a plug. Can you get them on Amazon or not? Is
Oh
it
yeah,
possible?
sure. You can get it. Well, except for well, yeah, you can get them all. Masking the Truth, my COVID book. You can't get the Kindle thing. They got rid of that, but you can get the paperback there.
Yeah. Have you written at all about World War II or these secrets?
Oh yeah, the book that Patrick mentioned, The Crimes and Cover-ups, that has a lot about that. That went into detail about the Allied atrocities and all the rapes that occurred, and I went over to get it in my latest book, American Memory Hole: How the Court Historians Promote Disinformation. That's kind of a combination of the first two hidden history books, and it goes a lot more into World War II, and both, I forget which one has which, but in I think Crimes and Cover-ups, I go into detail about all the raping the Allies did, and it's it goes back to the Civil War at least, when Lincoln's Union troops raped their way through the South. I mean, they were raping machines, and they were also plundering too. They stole a lot. Same thing happened in World War II. The Allies, the good guys, our guys, my guys, your guys, they raped so many women that they had to build special brothels for them to satisfy them. I mean, they couldn't stop raping, and these are the one we're told were the good guys. Yeah, they were raping nuns. They were raping machines. It's a shame, and but they were, and you had to tell the truth about it, and nobody wants to hear that. Well, wait a minute, like.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, for example, did you know that the American Air Force they experimented with drugs to keep them awake, and that's why there's quite a few mistakes. And shortly after D-Day, what happened is they kept getting friendly fire from I think it was Kitty Hawks. My dad said came over and strafed them, even though they got all everything laid out. Because my dad was in frontline intelligence, they went ahead of the main battlefront.
Well, the front friendly fire is a subject that was really not talked about much until Platoon, Oliver Stone's movie, that came out about Vietnam, that talked about how prevalent it was. And we now know later that Pat Tillman, the NFL football player, who and Patrick knows about that. He's got a brother that plays football, but Pat Tillman was a defensive back for the Cardinals, and really stupidly left a great gig like that to volunteer to go fight in Iraq, and ended up getting killed. And they first tried to make him out to be a hero and to buy his family off, and they'd have nothing of it. His brother made a acerbic speech about, it was all lies. Pat when he was over there, he saw how ridiculous it was, and he turned against the war. And they eventually found out he died by friendly fire. He was probably assassinated. And that's what Oliver Stone talked about. I don't know if that happened in World War II, but probably. But we know in Vietnam, people were knocked off purposely.
It was fragging. They threw a fragmentation grade into the tent. But the thing is, what happened is they got so sick of being strafed by the American Air Force that the Canadians opened up and shot one of the American planes down. And when they captured a German prisoner, a senior rank, he said, when the Allies bomb, we get our heads down. When we bomb, you get your heads down. When the Americans bomb, everybody gets their heads down, because they was making so many mistakes. And it was very, very strange. But what is overlooked is prior to the invasion of Sicily, that invasion was, I think it was over half strength, because the majority of the men had deserted. And that is not covered in history books, that my dad witnessed it, because they've been you think about it, they've been through so much. And Montgomery was hated, absolutely hated, because he gave a speech and he didn't notice intelligence on their shoulders. And he was talking to them like schoolboys, like children. And he said, what is it? You'll go home, and but I've got a little job for you soon, at first. And he said, and people were and they're shouting rude remarks to him, and he had to make a hasty retreat because they were getting quite hot under the collar, because a lot of the blokes had served 7 years in India. These were the regular troops, and then when they were on their way home, World War II started, and they were diverted to Malta. So they went through the full siege of Malta. My dad was drafted, and his lot went to Malta in 1939. So, well, sorry, 1940, early 1940. So he was with regulars as well as conscript. He was conscripts. And you think those regulars spent 7 years in India, they hadn't seen their families. They then went on to the invasion of Sicily after almost starving to death. And then they were told to do another invasion on Italy. That's why they deserted. And it's been covered up.
That's amazing. That's something. Yeah, I wish I had known that too. I could have maybe in a future edition of it. Yeah, it's
well, there's a heck of a lot. I can't, and there's a lot that he was not put in his book because he suffers from shell shock. And I heard it, so I know off by heart almost.
Well,
So.
and it doesn't surprise me because World War II, especially, they built that up as the good war. And there was it wasn't until American Memory Hall when I read my researcher Peter Seakoch did such a great job finding this stuff, but we found out there were a lot more anti-war movements and anti-draft resistance in World War II than I ever thought. And of course, they were treated terribly and imprisoned and everything. And it's so they want so much to make it look like it was a united front, and it was, to a great degree, to a shameful degree, that they bought all this stuff and they planted victory gardens and all that nonsense, but bought bonds. But you're right. The only deserter we hear about from World War II is probably Eddie Slobik, and I wrote about him in Crimes and Cover-Ups, and just tragic story. I mean, this guy he wasn't a soldier. He was, very kind of soft and maybe on the autistic spectrum or something, but had no business being there. And he tried so hard to get out, and they ended up, he couldn't believe it to them. They ended up shooting and killing him when that was not the way they treated deserters in World War II. They made an example out of him. His whole story is in the book, but it's shameful and sad because he,
was that the one that was one on Christmas Day? There was one that was shot.
Well, I think they made a movie about him. Martin Sheen played him. Made for the Execution of Private Sloan. Frank Sinatra tried to get the rights to make a movie about it, and they stopped it or something. But very, very sad story. But that's really the only. They try to make it seem like there was no opposition to that, because then again, it leads into the non-Irish question, because now World War II is associated with that. That's why it was fought, and so any opposition to it, okay, you must be anti-Semitic. What are you questioning? The good war? Yeah, I question it.
Well, I've got something to say about that, but I'm not saying it on air. And but the thing is that there's so much that but there's two versions of World War II. There's the Hollywood version and what really happened, and people are led to believe the Hollywood version. And my father was up against it because people are telling him what happened when he was actually there and they weren't. And it was horrendous. But what has been a huge cover up is how the disabled veterans were treated after the war, and it's been swept under the carpet.
I talked about I think it was in Crimes and Cover-Ups, where there was they had some kind of drill between the Allies, between I think the British and the U.S. And somehow live ammunition was put in the British guns, I think, and they were supposed to fake an invasion before they had the invasion of Normandy, and a bunch of Americans were killed because of the live.
That was Canvassans. That was when some German E-boats, I think, got in amongst this. Exercise.
But they ended up killing a bunch of them, and again, they covered it up for a long time, and they didn't want anything like that. My father,
Operation Tiger.
Yeah, that's it. And my uncle, my father's brother, was at Normandy, and he ruined his life. He died when I was very young, but he was never normal after that. He survived, but he had a plate in his head, and he would relive it every Christmas time. He would start screaming and crying, and they'd have to, because he would say he heard the boys calling for their mothers and stuff. Yeah. So. And, there's so many people obviously didn't come back that died, but how many people were scarred like that? And he never led a door. He never got married or he was emotionally messed up. And it was all from the war. And it wasn't a good war.
Both my parents had shell shock that was that was untreated. And my mother, when she was carrying me, she had a near-on nervous breakdown. So I was sort of born into a very nervous sort of situation. And I heard World War II almost every day of my life from as long as I can remember. That's why I'm like an old diesel engine. You start me off and I can just carry on talking about it.
I just ordered your
I've heard
dad's
it.
book, by the way.
Oh, thank you so much, Patrick. That really is very, very kind. It is much appreciated because Dad must be looking down from heaven now, thinking, "Wow, at last!" You know. But there's so much I can say on that subject.
That didn't get
And
written down. You should write it down sometime if you haven't already.
well,
And again,
I am actually doing a secondary book about the post-war, what happened, which leads on to how, because with Dad, it took him 10 years, but we had an uphill struggle because there was a lot of people against him writing the book. And he really, it's a miracle Eric ever got published, quite honestly. But it's quite sad. But what happened to the veterans after the war? A big cover-up. As also, I knew somebody whose father was in the Merchant Navy, and when they were torpedoed and they got into the lifeboats, when they went for the food had been stolen by the dockers in Liverpool.
Well,
So there's no food in the lifeboats.
I
Sorry,
don't know what
mate.
it's like. I know what it was like in England, but in America, when I first started working, the world was still run by World War II veterans, and
Yes,
so
same here.
when I was working, there were so many of these old guys, and if you survived it, and you weren't messed up like my uncle, it was the greatest thing in the world because it made your reputation. If you had a good service record, you got great jobs. You need a college degree. Oh, well, really? What's up with your, especially if you won some medals or something. But
Opposite over here.
oh, was it
Absolute
opposite over there? Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay. Yeah. Here they rewarded them. And I had so many people, bosses and stuff that were retired colonels and everything. And I would, I'd ask them for war stories. So all you had to do to get on their good side is, hey, tell me what happened. And they would love to talk about it, at least here. But I maybe it was the opposite there.
Well, it was the opposite. And again, it is to do with the non-Irish after the war. Now, Nuki Brown says, Eric, are there any original copies of the book still available? Yes, I've still got copies and I can sign them. But I can send it out. Unfortunately, as I say, if you could kindly sort of email me or contact me via Telegram, I can send you the details. The website, which is normally warveteran.co.uk, is down at the moment. And I'm hoping to get the website back running this week. I've had a bit of trouble with it. A bit of trouble. So, yes, I'm sorry about that. And Aunt Sally said, where are we? It's a massive book, it is, and an extreme good read. Thank you very much. Opens your eyes to the lies of World War II and the way the men were treated as literal cannon fodder. Yes.
Well, that goes back to what I was saying before when we were talking about the convid jibby jabbies. That I was saying about how grannies and granddads were left to die, and that was that was deliberately done by our government.
Yes.
It's the same with the wars, wasn't it? Exactly the same thing.
Yes.
That the people who are injured and are scarred for life with various mental health issues and so on and so forth. But we know that all wars are paid for by the same people. They're funded by the same people, and it's these people that want us to go to war on their behalf, and we're the ones that get the shit on the back of it, which is wrong in every way. Isn't it? 'Cause at the end of the day, I've said many times that the general public we don't want wars. None of us do. It's the ruling classes that want these wars, and it's the general public that then suffer as a result of it. It's wrong in every way. It really is.
The people of the euphemism. sorry, but that's what it is.
Yes, and I'll tell you something else before you go, and that is, we had an unwritten euthanasia policy. That once a person was in battle, they called them seasoned troops. They kept patched up wounded in battle, and those that went in on the first wave, like my father, were patched up wounded. A lot of them. hobbling off because they expected them to be wiped out because they didn't want the extra cost of welfare looking after them after the war. So they were just literally kept in the front line all the time until they were finished off. And there was lots of protests about it in this country, which is another thing you won't find in the official history books, but that's true. And as I say, they called them seasoned troops. And the lot that my father was in the 50th Northumbrian Division. And sorry, I'm waffling on a bit here. And Montgomery expected them to be completely wiped off the face of the earth. But what they did, they were to get a foothold for the following troops for the second wave. So that's basically it. But did you know that we had penal brigades in this country? We think the Soviets are the only ones that had it, but we had it. And on D-Day, what they did, my dad didn't know about this, but I found out about this afterwards from an author. They chained these chaps up to the side of the landing craft, and they released the chains just before the bridge came down, and they went to shore. And there's a chap with a machine gun, and if they turn around, they got machine gunned, so they had to go forward. And that's true as well. So there's quite a lot that's hidden. And John Hamer, his uncle, was a deserter in France, and was a deserter with some Americans as well. And I'm not sure, you have to ask him, I think with some German deserters as well in France, and they lived there in the middle of nowhere for a long time. They deserted. So that's something else to ask John Hamer, you know. But anyway, thank you very much, everyone. I think we're coming near the end of the time now on the show. Donald, fantastic show. And,
thanks, Fred. That's great. You know a lot of hidden history too. You got different kinds of hidden history. It's interesting to hear.
Well, trouble is I go on. I'm a bit of a waffle. I'm a bit like an old diesel engine. So please tell me, look, shut up, you know. Because once you get me started, that's it, you know.
Yeah.
But I'll briefly tell you when we're off air. But it will be brief. About something which I wouldn't be allowed to say on air. But but Donald, if you'd like to be a regular, you're always welcome on this show. There's an open microphone. And Donald's
anytime. Thank you, Patrick. Great. And Patrick was great for setting this up. And anytime. Yeah, happy.
Set it all up. And thank you very much also for Paul for coming on the show tonight.
Nice to meet you with Donald as well. It's been good. It's been a great session.
Nice to meet you.
And it just leaves me to say, please put a thumbs up. Please subscribe. And if you want to find out about my dad's book, well, there's details below. If you log on to warveteran.co.uk, if it doesn't work, it is down at the moment, and I'm trying to get the site running again. And Donald, people can find your books on Amazon, and you're on Substack. And far away, mate. Plug all you want.
Everywhere. Well, Donald Jeffries at Substack.com. It's I Protest. That's my Substack. That's the easiest way to access me. And I have more readers there, so you can subscribe to me there. And I write a couple times a week there at least, so you get plenty of content. My books are everywhere. Amazon. Most of them are at Barnes and Noble. But if you search author Donald Jeffries books, I mean, I have 10 of them, so they'll come up. And you can Amazon have an authors page, so you'll see it there, and you'll see my books lined up there, and it's about different things. But again, I have 3 volumes of hidden history. It's kind of like the stuff we've been talking about today that probably sell more than the rest of them combined.
Well, EXO, I think it's a very nice note he's finished off with is, God bless you, Donald, for what you do.
Thank you, EXO. I appreciate it.
And go to rents.com, and Donald, you'll be on with Jeff tonight.
Tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern time here. So that would be, I think, how many? We're 5 hours behind you. Yes. I don't know. If you're sitting up late, that would be like 2 or 3 in the morning, probably.
Yeah.
You guys.
Yeah. It will be a bit early. And also, you got a YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, my YouTube channel is you search for Donald Jeffries. It's got some numbers in it. I don't know. I didn't set it up, but yeah.
And Rumble.
And Rumble, I have too under author
Rumble
Donald
in the Jungle,
which I'm trying to get going, but it's hard. It's hard getting. That's why I'm suspicious of anybody that has a huge audience because I know how hard it is to build these platforms.
Oh,
we're
you knew a bit
trying.
about that. And also these famous overnight people that's got thousands of subscribers within about a week. I mean, I've been plugging away at this for over 20, well, around about 20 years. And look at my audience.
Yeah, it's you can't help but be suspicious of it because we know how hard it is, and
Well, that's right.
maybe they can buy. I hear you can buy subscribers, so I guess we just need to increase the budget for that.
What you've got to remember, though, Chris, is it's quality over quantity. That's what you got to remember.
Oh, that's very
Yes,
kind. Thank
yes,
you. Well,
definitely.
it just leaves me to say thank you, everyone, for tuning in tonight. And thank you, Donald. Thank you,
Thank you.
Paul. Thank you, of course, Patrick, for setting this up and let me know about Donald. And of course, whatever happens, put your thumbs up. Please subscribe. Consider subscribing. And whatever happens, have a bloody good laugh and good night.